Bam, we're live. That was running for a minute and I was talking and I didn't even click myself in. I thought I was being cute coming in a minute early today. What have I done? Okay, I got my socks on. You guys missed that. That's the only thing you really missed. There's no reason for bats this morning. Good morning, Heidi. Brandon G, let's get into this. Yeah, right? You're a good dude. You know who the guest is this morning. I am pumped. This has been in the works for a while. Mr. Officer Brandon Tatum has been very responsive, but just scheduling, it's been crazy. He's one of those guys that actually responds in Instagram. Actually, a lot of people respond in Instagram, and it's always quite refreshing. The guest we're having on today, I don't know if most of you guys know who he is. Let me, I'm assuming I assume everyone knows who he is. He is a cool cat. And as soon as he jumps on, I will dig in and tell him why I think he's so cool, what he's done that I think is so cool. New York could face decline of workers due to crime. Or should we do this Elon Musk one? Or what's this one over here? I like this expression on his face. This is his most recent post. Let's check it out. Uh-oh, I don't hear anything. Here we go.
That's funny. Do you think it's funny?
Let's try one more time. Hold on. Here we go. Hold on. Here we go.
The leaker is a Republican, and if I get pregnant during our lovemaking, I will joyfully abort our fetus.
I don't think that's funny. Did you think it's funny?
Uh-oh, here he is. Let's see.
Why are we having about this as if Roe v. Wade is somehow...
Now, do you know who it is? Mr. Officer Brandon Tatum.
What's going on with my camera, man?
Hey, you're frozen. I was like, damn, you look hard this morning, but it's because you're frozen.
Yeah, my camera, man. My camera is going to work. So,
at least you have it on. Are you at home?
Yeah, my camera. I don't know for what reason. I'm going to reset my camera real quick.
You do.
It should start opening up here soon.
All right.
I have no idea why it's doing this, but.
John Bucaria, thank you. This is going to be a good one. This is fun. We're going to just jump in so fucking hard this morning because we don't got a lot of time with the man. He's busy. Holy cow. Congratulations, Brandon, also on the new radio show. It makes me nervous, like we're going to lose you. I'm not going to lie. Makes me nervous.
Yeah, thank you so much. I for some reason, I have no idea why this screen is doing this.
The good news is your voice sounds impeccable. I'm swooning. I'm even swooning a little bit. I'm getting a little hot. 1.9 million YouTube subscribers.
Yeah, I wonder what is going on.
Bruce Wayne, quick and fast like Sevan. Thank you. Austin, good to see you. Megan, good morning. Travis Bellinghausen, good morning. Good morning to all of you guys. The world is getting smaller and smaller and smaller with each guest the Sevan podcast has on. I can't tell you how excited I am. How about you guys, while we wait for Mr. Tatum to get his camera working, you guys guess what this guy's max back squat is? Lifetime PR. I'll give you a little bit of help. He's 6'2". I don't know how much he weighs now, but when he set that PR, I think he was 6'2", 220. So you go ahead and start guessing in the comments what you think his max back squat is. Mr. Tatum, he's taking over Larry Elder's show. Man, you're skyrocketing. Everybody's skyrocketing. All the homies are killing it. He's joining the ranks of Charlie Kirk, Dinesh D'Souza, and Dennis Prager. Three extremely, extremely articulate men who are very capable of using their logic to enter any conversation and handle their own. And Mr. Officer Brandon Tatum also belongs in that category, which I think is why we like him so much, because he thinks clearly on his feet. You can put him in any situation, and he can speak to it. He can speak to it with his logic. 2 + 2 is 4. He doesn't have to defend something that's a lie. We don't have to hear his feelings. He can explain it to you. And whether you agree with him or not, you know where he stands because he explained it to you. No, not 900 pounds, Corey. Not 900 pounds. I like this. From Chase Bryan, 750, not 750. Austin Hartman, you're getting close. 560. Yes, 6 times my back squat. That is a great guess, Devesh Maharaj. Now here's the thing. Who thinks this show's actually going to happen? Who thinks Brandon's going to actually get his camera going?
I don't know. It's very interesting that this camera is not working. 2 years and I never had a problem with this camera.
Hey, really, can you just switch your camera choice to your computer one?
No, it's like I got a whole setup, and I got an NDI connection with a TriCaster and all that. I'm wondering if I have to just reset my entire computer.
Do it. Do you. We're good.
Let me reset this thing real quick, and I'll be back.
Yep, you do it. He said TriCaster. That's hardcore. I can't wait to ask him about the UFC. He dropped Dana White's name the other day. He was in the front row when Tony Ferguson got kicked in the face by Michael Chandler and KO. Good evening. What are we playing at? How tall is Sevan? No. 575, close. He it's somewhere in the 500 range. I think it's in the low 500s, but it's pretty crazy. And he was what position did he play in football? Like it matters to me. He's one of the guys that runs and tackles you. How's that? I can't even remember the last time I back squatted. I only front squat. This guy has 1.9. Officer Brandon Tatum has 1.9 or 89 million YouTube subscribers. He came onto my radar in 2020. He just tells it like it is. And I think that's been extremely refreshing, but there is a specific reason why it's refreshing. And we'll get into that. 4 pages of notes. Anything over 2 means I'm nervous. Do I seem nervous? Oh my goodness, that kick. What kick? Mena Jawa. I don't know what that is. Melissa came in spitting fire. Uh-oh. Good evening. What are we playing? Oh, great. Yeah. It's not her. She's not the one I'm worried about. Is it Elisa? One of these girls is brutal. Or is it Trina? One of these girls just is like a dude. She got no hold back in her. Man, there's this show on YouTube. Hans goes on it a lot. It's called the Tony Fire Show. It's a show out of Austin. They claim it's the most widely watched live YouTube show on YouTube. It's a comedian show. It's shot out of Texas. I can't remember. Tony something. And someone will say it in the comments. And holy shit, those guys are savage. They had a lady comedian up on stage when they were in San Francisco, and they just unloaded on her. Kill Tony. Thank you. We also have Hans coming back on the show, which is kind of exciting. Hinchcliffe, Kill Tony. Oh, is that Hinchcliffe? One of you guys in my DMs told me you went and saw Joe Rogan live, and Tony opened for him. This is just like last week when I was in Colorado. I got the DM, and that Tony was better than Joe Rogan. I don't really find that show funny. That show, for every like 20 jokes told on that show, I think one is good. And I get it. Maybe that's kind of the part of the show that's cool because they're just live and they're just going at it. It reminds me of sort of being in the 8th, 9th, 10th grade, and the boys would sit around in a circle and we would we called it cap sessions. Everyone would cap, C-A-P, on each other. Capping. I should ask Brandon if he did that, cap sessions. Like we just sit around and just rip dudes. There were never any girls in the cap sessions. I wonder if Officer Tatum did that. There he is. Oh, look, he's animated. Oh, he switched his background.
All right. I'm here like a liberal tear. Okay. I'm back.
When you were a young man in the hi, how are you?
Good, good. How you doing?
Dick fucking in love with you. When you were in the 8th grade, 9th grade, 10th grade, did you and the boys sit around and have what we used to call them cap sessions? There'd be like 10 of you in someone's living room. And do you know what a cap session is? Capping? That's not okay. I'm 50. Maybe you guys didn't do. Maybe you called some of us. You just ripped on each other. Ripped on each other's moms' clothes.
Oh yeah.
Just everyone's just fucking everyone up.
Yes. Yes. All the time. We used to do it all the time.
And there's like one or two dudes who are smart and just stay out of it. Like they're just not good at it, and they stay. And occasionally, like just something flies over and drills them, like a comment or two.
Yep.
But they just stay cool.
They normally sit in the background and laugh and try not to laugh too hard.
They don't want them. There is when I hear you were on a podcast with a Navy SEAL host, and his question to you was, what are your favorite stereotypes or most accurate stereotypes, whatever he said, of black people and white people? I understand his question. Here's and I don't know if it's a problem. I understand his question, but the thing is that there's no characteristic that comes with being black or white, and that's where we're stuck. There's no characteristic that comes with being black or white except your relationship with the sun. There's zero. And I spent a ton of time in Africa, and that's how I know that. We just have different cultures here. And for some reason, we keep fucking talking about everyone by their skin color. Go on. You go.
Yeah, no. I think that, you have to be a delusional person or a person that's misinformed or brainwashed to believe that color has anything to do with anything. Yeah. And people
except for the sun, though, right? Like you and I, our skins do respond to the sun differently, right?
Right. I mean, yeah. When you talk about biology, you're talking about melanin in the skin and different things like that. I mean, and that varies too. I mean, you could be a light skinned person that's receptive to tanning. Some people burn, and you could be white.
Right.
And there's black people who are light skinned that are considered black, but they're light skinned, so they burn. Darker skinned people don't burn, in the sun. So color makes zero. It has nothing to do with nothing, in my opinion, for the most part. The difference is culture. And what people have to understand is that there is a culture that some people buy into. And unfortunately, there's I would say a large amount of black people that buy into a particular culture, which make people believe that that's black culture. And that's not
and what is it if it's not black culture? I'm guilty of that. I'll say that. What is that?
Well, in the earlier stages of when America was being developed, it's called redneck culture.
Okay.
And this is something
I like it.
This is something that Thomas Sowell wrote in his book, the Black Redneck and White Liberal. It talks about all of the entertainment and promiscuity and all of these different things that in a lot of inner cities you see. It originated from Europe. It came here in the form of the white redneck, and then in many of these situations, white people begin to move on from that culture, and then black people begin to adopt the culture after slavery. And that's why we see this type of mentality. Unfortunately, it's associated with black people. Black culture has changed over the years. In the 30s, black people, by and large, did not act the way you see today. Saggy pants. And I'm not saying this is all black people. I'm just saying in general, some of these stereotypes that we see: sagging pants, gang activity, the violent music, being known for entertainment and playing sports. And that's a more modern phenomenon of a behavior that we see in black people. It used to not be that way. Children out of wedlock used to not be the case in the quote unquote black community. Abortions was not the case. We were believed in God more. All of the things that you see today that have infiltrated into the black community is not what black people used to, be like.
I never knew that came from Europe.
Yeah, I mean, Thomas Sowell said in his book, he has a lot of references there, and I tend to believe what he has to say. So
yes, me too.
He brought it up. I forget what parts of Europe, but he brought up how back in Europe there was this whole, I would say, underbelly of society where it wasn't necessarily all negative, but it was filled with gambling and entertainment, and kind of like how we see people that are smoking weed and doing all this stuff. that was originally from like a European ideology. Those Europeans came over here and typically associated with poverty, you know, and they came over here, and then the white people started doing it here, and then, you know, black people adopted it through slavery, and then some black people have grown out of it, like myself. I don't consider myself to be a part of a lot of the quote unquote black culture today, because I want to just make this clear, because I don't want anybody to take what I'm saying out of context. There's no such thing as black culture. There's a particular culture that some black people adopt, and that's kind of what we see today.
And I think I asked you, what would you call that culture? And you said redneck culture.
Yeah. Based on Tommy Soul's ideology of the book. Now,
tell me the name of the book one more time.
It's called Black, Redneck, and White Liberal.
Okay. I'm going to read that today. And then I'm going to start. If I see that too, which I think I'm going to start just using that redneck culture. I'm going to start using that.
Yeah. It's, you know, that's kind of
the academic sense.
Yeah,
the academic sense.
When you break it down and you look at it academically, when you look at it historically, that's what it is. You know, you look at it now, you know, people like to associate it with poverty, which is kind of what it is, and how it manifests today is that most of the degradation of culture happens in these impoverished areas. And I had this conversation with a few of my friends the other day. It's kind of like the concept of which came first, the egg or the chicken, and which came first, poverty or bad behavior. And, you know, it's kind of this vicious cycle. It's like people who have bad behavior typically are in poverty. People who are in poverty typically have bad behavior. And it's this vicious cycle that just keeps going around. And it manifests today in a lot of these inner cities and poorer communities, not just black communities.
Where did you grow up? Where were you born?
I was born in Fort Worth, Texas.
And then were you raised there?
Yep, raised there until I was 18. And we lived in various parts of Fort Worth, Texas. I graduated from Paul Lawrence Dunbar High School, which is in Stop Six, Texas, right in the hood.
The reason, and I'm open to being totally wrong about this, that I think most people gravitate towards Officer Brandon Tatum is because of this. First and foremost, when he speaks, it's logical. So he's transparent. And so if you have a beef with what he's saying, or if you want to come at it, you don't have to try to address something that's ambiguous. There's no word fuckery. There's no word trickery, you know, and he, even though I don't agree with him, although I don't believe in God myself, and when he talks about God, he's completely transparent about that. It's all just beautiful honesty. It's what makes it makes him extremely attractive. That being said, the savior component to him is, I grew up in the Bay Area. I was born in Oakland Children's Hospital, and I grew up in the Bay Area. And the worst thing you could call, and it's beyond, and I didn't know this growing up there, but it's beyond liberal. And the worst thing you could call anyone in the Bay Area, and I don't know if it's particularly in this order, but and it's so bad that people walk around terrified of being called a racist. I was born in 1972, and it was the most scary thing that could ever happen to you. And then, of course, there was pedophile and rapist. No one wants to be those. And then all of a sudden, it started being thrown around. People started being called a racist, and you couldn't even come to their defense if they weren't racist, because you were so scared it would land on you. And unfortunately, it required someone with melanated skin, with black skin, to come up and I'm just going to say it, to save these fucking white people, to save the people who were fucking terrified. No, I'm not racist. I swear. You are. You just don't fucking know it. And people like Candace, and here's the paradox. People like Candace, people like Officer Brandon Tatum, the token black guy, these guys, they're saviors to kind of innocent people who are just terrified. They're scared. They're absolutely fucking scared. And the only reason why I can speak on it is because I was canceled. If I wasn't canceled, I would fucking be scared too, hiding in the fucking bushes. And so on behalf of all of us who are fucking terrified, or were terrified, thank you.
Well, I appreciate that. Yeah. And I think that it goes in cycles, right? I mean, when you look at this historically from the aspect of the United States of America, You got to think when Black African slaves came to the United States of America, there were white people who saved them. That's pretty much what happened. You know, you had the Christians, people who were believers, who were coming and helping people like Harriet Tubman and others to free the slaves. They never believed in slavery. When you go down in history, you look at the Republican Party, when you look at the Civil Rights Movement, when you look at the Civil Rights Act, when you look at the Voting Act, all of these different things, white Republicans were responsible for giving Black people the freedoms. Well, I would say giving them acknowledging their freedoms, because freedoms come from God, they don't come from the government.
Yes, sir.
But acknowledging the freedoms of Black people from slavery, giving them citizenship in the United States of America, and allowing them to have the right or observe the right to vote. Again, because Black people used to be able to vote when voting was measured based on property ownership. And then, it was taken away and it was returned back to where Black people did have the free right or the equal right to vote. I mean,
I didn't know that. I had no idea.
Yeah, all of this was white people helping Black people in a situation where you have the availability to help, and that's what happened. Good white people. I mean, and then you go down the history lane until today, and you see that Black people like myself, who are not absorbed in propaganda and not brainwashed, we are now stepping to the defense or speaking on behalf of our brothers and sisters who happen to be white. Because I do it all the time. I'm like, I'm a very impartial person, and a lot of that comes because my faith in God. I'm an impartial person. Like, I don't care nothing about the color of somebody's skin. I care about what's right and what's wrong. And if something is wrong, I'm going to correct it. And if somebody's doing right, I'm going to support them. It doesn't matter what color they are, where they come from. And that's my philosophy. And that's the philosophy that has gotten us as Americans to this point today, is that there's always people who observe good and who's willing to preserve the things that are right. And it ebbs and flows. And I think Black people have a duty. I don't say a duty, I don't owe anybody anything, but it's almost a duty and responsibility to say, you know what, that's wrong what they're doing to white people, just like it was wrong what they were doing to Black people back in the day.
I agree with you. I think people with melanated skin have a fucking duty too. The same way I think obese people have a duty to speak up and say it's not COVID that's killed anyone. It's the fact that I've been drinking 6 Cokes a day for the last 30 years, smoking fucking Juuls and eating a 6-pack of donuts for breakfast. And please don't quarantine any healthy people who take care of themselves and value their existence. I think we need an obese person to step up in that same way and become a superhero. I've talked about it on my show a million times. We got black skinned people doing that. Why don't we have some really unhealthy motherfuckers standing up for those of us who fucking have no fear of COVID? Because no one healthy has died.
Yeah, for the most part, it's not attacking people. It's we knew this from the very beginning. That's why it's complete bullcrap what we see going on today. And I hope these people go to prison. They
do you think they will?
No, I don't think that they will. I think that they should. It's a possibility that they could, but the way our country works and the way our government system is set up in this fraudulent Ponzi scheme manner, I don't think we have control like we think we do. And I think that there's people that have a legacy control over our country that is never going to change. I mean, unless they all die off, and that's not going to happen. But I think it was all bullcrap, man. They knew from the very beginning. I knew, probably you knew, most people with common sense knew that it was an attack on people who had a weak immune system, people who are obese, comorbidities. We already see the CDC talks about the comorbidities. I think it was like 5 or more comorbidities in most of the people who had died from COVID. We already knew this fact. We already knew the same people are dying, or relatively the same people are dying from the flu every year. More people die from obesity every year, heart failure. I mean, all of these different things that go on with poor health. Some people are elderly. They can't control their health to a certain degree. They're just up in age, and it's about that time. And the COVID monster got them. We already knew that's what it was. Young children and people who are healthy, generally speaking, they had no fear of dying. Now, you're going to get it. I got it. My wife got it.
I got it.
Yeah, so probably most people on here got it to some form of fashion. And I guess if you don't know you got it, maybe you were asymptomatic.
80%. 80%.
Right. Most of us got it and we recovered from it. It was no different than the flu. Maybe a little bit more residual effects for some people, maybe no effect in some people. My wife had nothing. She just lost her taste buds. I mean, I was laying up for a couple of days. And so it's bull crap. And they know it. They used it to destroy this country. And I know people think it's a conspiracy theory, but it's not. They used it to destroy our country. They used it to manipulate currency. They used it to get Donald Trump out of office. They used it to get the election the way they wanted it this time, which got a half dead man in the office of the presidency.
Do you know some people don't know? Do you know some people don't know how bad he is? Like I live in the liberal hive, and I go, so how do you think about Joe Biden? They're like, fine. I'm like, are you concerned about his health at all? They're like, no, why? Like they don't know that. They don't know.
He's dead. He's a dead man walking. I remember when I was playing football, and we had weights at 5 a.m. And if you weren't there before they started, the coach would yell out as you walk in, dead man walking, dead man walking. And you had to get on the treadmill for an hour. And then you had to go and finish the work. I mean, you had to go and start the next group workout. And the workouts were enough to kill you by itself. So doing the hour on the Stairmaster before was literally, you felt like you were a dead man walking. And that's exactly what Joe Biden is. He's a dead man walking. Literally, he cannot speak. He cannot complete sentences. He can't even read a teleprompter. He's out of control. He has early signs of mental degradation. I mean, some people think it's potentially dementia. His mind is going. He used to not be like this. And anybody who's intellectually honest, or at least have common sense, will look at the old videos of Joe Biden, and he was pretty sharp. He was an idiot. I think he was evil. He was a racist, but he was pretty sharp. How
do people not see how racist he is?
Well, he's one of the most racist. I mean, it's very weird how people are so easily confused and lied to and manipulated, and they believe it. Joe Biden did the eulogy of a guy who was a former Klans member. Robert Byrd was a former Klans member. He was a part of the Ku Klux Klan. Joe Biden did his eulogy.
Can you imagine if Trump did that? Can you imagine?
Dude, if Trump watched a Ku Klux Klan member on television when he was 3, they would call him a racist. You know, that's what they did in the 94 crime bill. Now, I don't think the 94 crime bill was a racist crime bill. And people like to conflate racism with racial, I wouldn't say discrimination, but disparity. They like to conflate the two, which I don't think they're related. However, if you want to push negative effects on minority communities based on policies, Joe Biden authored the 94 crime bill, which put a whole bunch of African-American men in prison. I mean, we can go down the list. He told Charlemagne, I don't want to call him the god because he ain't a god at all, but the guy named Charlemagne on the Breakfast Club, he interviewed Joe Biden, and Joe Biden said, if you don't know if you want to vote for me or Trump, then you ain't black.
Hey, I grew up hearing that, by the way, just so you know, from when I was 5 years old to when I could listen till I was 30. That is the exact sentiment of everyone in the Bay Area who's a liberal. That one, they feel sorry for anyone who's not white. And that's why and that's the crazy part. They feel sorry, and so they hide behind this fake benevolence, this fake kindness. That is the liberal. This metaphor I like to use a lot, Brandon, is liberals are. Let's say we're all sitting at the beach. There's 500 of us packed in at the beach, right? And a seagull flies over. The liberal is the one that's like, oh, I'm gonna do something good and feed the seagull a piece of bread. 1, it's bad for the seagull. 2, it brings 10,000 seagulls, and they shit on everyone and ruin everything for everyone. And if you get upset, they're like, I'm feeding animals. You're a bad person. And it's like, no, actually, you fucked up the whole ecosystem and you got everyone shit on. That's why those cities are all fucked up, by the way. Portland, San Francisco, Los Angeles, Seattle, because liberals feed seagulls. That's what they do. They feed seagulls, and they make everyone around them weak. That's why they make weak men too. And I'm a product of that. And were you born into a liberal? Was your family Democrats?
No. My family voted Democrat, or they believed that they were Democrats by proxy. Right. But we grew up conservative. I mean, my father didn't play that. My dad was a strong man. He went to work every day, busting his tail, and we'll get toe up. And when I say toe up, we got whoopings. with a
How come he
belt.
didn't fall for the propaganda? Why wasn't he like, hey, Republicans hate black people, blah, blah, blah,
Well,
blah, blah?
I think my father did a little bit, because he voted for Biden. He voted for I don't know if he voted for Hillary when Trump ran, but I know he voted for Biden, and for some reason he's not completely sold out, right? My father is conservative. He just don't know it, and I think my dad has bought into a little bit of the propaganda. I think he's changed now, obviously, since I've been doing what I'm doing. But he bought into a
That's
little bit of the
cool.
propaganda.
That's cool. By the way, congratulations. That must feel good.
Yeah, it does, because I respect my father. My father's a respectable man. So it's not like me and him get into these arguments. It's like when I put out an argument there, whether my dad wants to believe it or not, he end up coming around and saying, you know what, that's logical. That's common sense. He talk about Joe Biden all the time now. Like, man, what is this guy doing? The LGBTQ plus IA, that whole group. My dad is like, this is not right. The NAACP chapter that he was a part of an NAACP chapter where he lived, and he said he had to get out of there because they was pushing an LGBTQ agenda. And so my dad is not dumb. And I think a lot of black people are like my father. When I was growing up, man, black people were not for none of this stuff I see today. All these blue-haired, crazy liberals, black people when I was growing up around black people, it was unacceptable. This whole LGBTQ stuff and transgender and bigenders and binaries and queers and all this, black people were never accepting of it. Even other gay black people in the community, you couldn't come out as gay in the black community. You couldn't. You would get made fun of. You get shunned. So, to see some of this stuff today and how people have, in some ways, acquiesced to the evilness of the Democrats is just beyond me. And I'm not trying to act like I'm holier than thou and I'm up on a high horse, because I used to be that way too. I thought I was just ill-informed, and I didn't have all the information possible to make a good decision. I thought Republicans were racist white people because when
Me too. I was raised that way.
Right. When you turn on the news, you think that the news is the news. You think that you're looking at people who are being intellectually honest, and they don't have an agenda. They're just telling you what's happening in the world. And then you find out that it's not the case at all. These people are getting paid to make a certain perspective or to hold a certain perspective. Every day I download all the news apps and I look at them to get information. And it is as clear as the noonday sun that liberal media outlets are completely biased. They are absolutely, completely not hiding it, 100% biased. They are far more biased than Fox News. Now, obviously, Fox News is conservative. They're going to push conservative stories. CNN, MSNBC, all of them are completely biased. Literally, Jesus of Nazareth could come down from heaven and anoint Donald Trump in front of the world, and liberals CNN wouldn't even hold the story. They wouldn't even carry the story, and that would be the biggest story heard around the world. They will literally not have that story because Donald Trump is in it. I mean, it is. Look at him now. Elon Musk was their favorite, and now he's getting ready to acquire Twitter, and now they hate him. He's a right-wing extremist now.
Are you shadow banned on any of these accounts?
For the most part. I mean, who knows? I don't really know. I think I am. I think that there's levels of shadow ban.
What do you mean? You don't? I mean, like, people can't. Every day, someone sends me a screenshot of, "Hey, I tried to tag you, and I got a warning saying you're a piece of shit."
Yeah. It happens to me too. People are unsubscribed to me and stuff, and like, I'm trying not to be so caught up in it that I forget that maybe I need to make better content, because there is some levels to it, right? Because there is an algorithm thing, there's content, there's consistency, and that will make you show up in the algorithm better. Now, that's an element, and then also there's a shadow ban element. And some people, they are so worried about shadow banning that they don't realize they're just not putting out enough content. They're not putting out enough quality content. They're not talking about the subject that people that follow them are interested in. And I want to make sure that I know which side I stand on before I pick one side or the other. I don't want to say it's content and I'm actually getting shadow banned.
I can't even tag myself on my other accounts.
Yeah, okay. I have. Everybody has experienced this, and I witnessed it with my own eyes on Instagram. Everybody went through a period of getting shadow banned. There's a group of guys that post memes. I forget the channel's name now, but post memes. The guy reached out to me, B, what can I do, man? I'm getting killed, man. Like I get no traction. And I'm talking about these people will get millions of views per all their videos. And they were down to like 60,000 views, 100,000 views on their videos. And I remember him messaging me, and I felt the same pressure. Like I was losing followers, I wasn't gaining anything in like for months. And then all of a sudden, he messaged me back like, oh, it looked like they lifted the mandate. I gained like 10,000 followers within a couple days.
Yeah.
All of my videos were getting 200, 300,000 views. His was back up to 1 million, 2 million, 3 million views. And it's like, there was something there.
For sure.
Everybody was feeling like, man, we're getting shadow banned. And they released it and everybody's accounts blew up. And so it is happening. If people don't want to believe it, that's on them.
Well, it's funny because if you try to follow me, you'll get a warning saying, "Hey, are you sure you want to follow this account?" It gives you a lot of misinformation. And then if you try to tag me, you can't tag me. I'll just be light. And people send me that every single day.
Mm-hmm.
And then occasionally someone will send me a DM saying, "Oh, you're finally popped up in my story again.
Mm-hmm.
The shadow ban's been released." But it's not that it's been released. Basically, what they're doing is it's revolving. They just let a little trickle in and they revolve the people who can see my account. Yep. And it's interesting. I don't really care though. I mean, because that's not I just use my account to troll people that I want to have on my show. Do you know what I mean? I just, so like, I'm not, I've surrendered to the fact that Instagram or social media is not going to be how I'm going to get out there.
Yeah. And I try to balance it, right? Because I have, I'm trying to get to 1 million on all my platforms. And so I try to balance it. There's a lot of things that I want to say.
Why are you doing that? Just for fun? Just as a, like the same reason why you try to get a 500-pound back squat, or is there some sort of
to get into 1 million?
Yeah. Like, why do you want 1 million Instagram followers, 1 million Facebook, 1 million? I mean, you already have almost 2 million on YouTube.
Yeah. It's influence. It's influence. I want to be able to get the word out to as many people as possible. And the more traction I get on all social media platforms, the more I can reach people. And I try to balance it because I know if I say certain things on YouTube, I will lose my entire channel instantaneously. And so I have to measure in my mind. I say, I'm reaching 20, 25, 30 million people a month on my YouTube channel. Is it worth me saying something that then I reach nobody?
Yeah.
It's a equivalent to balance, even on other social media platforms. Do I talk about Mike Lindell in the election? Well, maybe I can do it offline. Maybe I can do it in my speeches when I go around the country. Maybe I can do it on Rumble, but I'm not going to touch that on my platform.
So the election,
I can't afford to lose it.
The Alex Stein was on the other day. Do you know who that is? He just signed with Blaze TV.
Tom Stein.
Yeah. He was on the other day and he was telling me you can't talk about 2,000 Mules on YouTube or else you could lose your channel. Is that true?
Well, they banned the 2,000 Mules Twitter account instantly on Twitter. Yeah, you can, if you talk about 2,000 Mules, and by the way, I was at the premiere of that movie, and it'll blow your freaking socks off. But you can't talk about it. And I know you can't talk about it on YouTube. I'm not going to even attempt to do it. Now, There's other platforms like Rumble, Truth Social, and some of these other things that people can talk about on, but it's something in the water, and I'm hoping that we transition power back to the Republicans and we can get a hold of this stuff, because I watched the documentary. It's proven evidence that there were mules taking ballots and dumping them in the ballot boxes and stuff. They got camera, they got evidence of them, they got geo-tracking. It is unequivocal that this is evidence of voter fraud. Clearly.
Massive voter fraud.
Massive. You're talking 400-some thousand. I mean, I think it's more than that. Over 400,000 illegal votes that were cast that we have. You got to think. They had a very strict algorithm or monitoring system that they allotted, right? They had the geo-tracking, which comes from your phone. Everywhere you go, your phone tracks you. And people can buy that information, right? Companies buy it. You know, if you had enough money, you can buy geo-track everybody that showed up at the front door of Target in the last 24 hours.
Wow.
You can geo-track that.
That's awesome.
So they geo-tracked these things, and they got all of these individuals who went from nonprofits to the voting stations or whatever. It's like a ballot drop boxes.
Yep.
But they ramped up the criteria. Like the people that they were able to monitor and count had to go to like 6 of these nonprofits and straight to a ballot box, and within like a day or something of that nature. So it was probably a lot more people than the 2,000 mules that they had mentioned, but they made it to where it is absolutely undeniable that these 2,000 people were actively involved in something that was complete voter fraud, legally voter fraud, because you cannot, take people's ballots and people can't pay you to go drop the ballots off. They were taking, when they drop off all these ballots, they were taking pictures of the boxes to show proof so they can get paid for doing it. It was out of control. And we know now why in the swing states, why they stopped voting. And all of a sudden, Donald Trump was winning by hundreds of thousands of votes. And then all of a sudden he's losing.
Yeah, that was weird how it just all happened all of a sudden at once, like overnight.
It was bull crap, man. It never happened in the history of our country. That has never happened where they stopped the vote like that. Never in the history of our country. Never in the history of our country has a president lost an election that won all but one Bellwether County. There's never in history that an incumbent president got 10, 20 million more votes, or I think it's like 11 million more votes or so, and didn't win. There's no time in history that a president won the states that Donald Trump won and didn't win the election.
Wow.
It has never happened in the history of the United States of America. And, people they just don't want to see it for whatever reason.
It's so or do they implicate anyone in the movie? Like, do they point the finger like, hey, this was done by
yeah,
Joey
Zuckerberg money? Like they spoke, like Zuckerberg put like $400 million into the election in 2020, and they pretty much articulated that, it seems like it was philanthropic, right? It was that he was doing it to make sure people can vote and make sure there's polling stations. But they articulated very clearly that money was then transferred into this dark area in politics where you're paying for mules and all this other nefarious things that are happening. The shell is that, look, he's sending it here for philanthropic purposes, but behind the scenes, his money was going to this dark place, and he knew it, and they knew it, and everybody else knew it. It was a funnel. It's like when people launder money through nonprofits or whatever, just
or the Ukraine.
Or Ukraine. Like,
hey, how come they can't reverse engineer it? So they got the license plate number, they got a picture of the guy. Why don't they go to that dude's house and be like, hey, who hired you? Dude, you used to be a police officer. Why can't they do some? By the way, it's really, on a total side note, it's so impressive that they did that. You would think an election would be stole like high tech. The fact that they did this with human beings is mind-boggling to me. Just old-fashioned cheating.
I think they did a lot of different things. This is just one extra. I think they put all hands on deck, man. Okay. They were getting dead people to vote. They were taking ballots from people in nursing homes that were completely, they're pretty much incapacitated to a certain degree. They were taking their ballots. I think there's machines that had issues. We saw people loading multiple at the voting places in these swing states. So, and I think that the mule thing is one of the probably the easiest way in the way they multiplied what they did to just drip these ballots into the system, and then at the last minute they counted all these ballots up because they were showing like 400,000 of these ballots that were done. But they had to do this because the American people was never going to vote for another Democrat ever again. As a whole, Democrat would never get in office again after Trump, because we realized that Trump exposed Republicans and Democrats.
Right.
And you say, this dude have never been in politics. He gets in the office and he does everything he said he was going to do for the most part. How does Bush not do what he said he's going to do? How did Obama not do everything he claimed that he was going to do? How is this even possible? This billionaire guy is literally accomplishing and doing everything without a filter to benefit America for the most part.
What's your favorite thing he did?
I mean, it's so many, man. I mean, from him running for office and him standing bold and strong. I mean, there's a few things. I think building the wall was a good thing that he did. and people don't live on the southern border. They don't live in border states. They don't understand how important
They
it is.
don't understand. I have
They
a
have-
lot of friends now in Texas, and they tell me that it's fucking scary living next to the border.
It's out of control. Like if you live in New York, you really don't see the influx. You live somewhere in Texas. I mean, these tens of thousands of migrants are coming through our border every day.
It's
I mean,
nuts.
you got millions of people that have poured through here in the last several years. Like, where do you think they're going? You think they just vanish into thin air? They're showing up in people's communities. They're showing up and saturating the system. Just like, when they said COVID, they were like, oh, COVID, it has hurt the healthcare system. Our beds are overloaded. You know why? Because you have a whole bunch of illegal people in our country that are unaccounted for, meaning they don't show up on the census. We think that we have this amount of population and this percentage of population gets sick. We can handle it in the system, in our healthcare system. No, we can't, because we got millions of people that's not even on the record. You think illegal aliens didn't get sick? Okay, they get sick and they come over here sick, and they go to our hospitals and get free healthcare. So anyway,
I was really disappointed when Trump never said that this is a disease of the unhealthy, and that when he got COVID, he didn't lose weight. I would have loved it if he'd have lost some weight. I'd have loved it if he got on a treadmill.
Trump. Let me say this about Trump, and I love Trump, and I just saw him just recently. The way he handled COVID, I was very disappointed at this whole thing. Now I know he was only certain things he could and couldn't do, right? I mean,
right, and he was under a lot of pressure too.
He's under a lot of pressure. I mean, what does the guy do? He's got a pandemic that these people are just putting out there as a pandemic. He has to do something. He can't just sit on his hands, because he may have believed that people were going to die like they had lied to us and said. But also I felt like that a lot of some of this has to be attributed to Trump to a certain degree, because Operation Warp Speed pushed these vaccines into place. And I knew at the very beginning, I said, if this man don't get reelected, the left is going to use this against us. I know it. Trump should not do this until he get reelected, and then he can try to roll out stuff, because then he can control it. No, right. He pushed it out there, and then he was coming out on a circuit and saying this is the greatest invention ever, was the vaccine, and he telling everybody to get vaccinated. All his kids got vaccine boosted, and it's like, dude, I don't know if
Junior got the vax. Junior got the vax.
I don't know.
Oh,
I saw Ivanka get the vax.
I can't imagine Junior doing that.
Yeah, Junior may not have gotten it. I think
He's
Ivanka did it. Maybe his other son did it. I just know Ivanka did it because I was following her and I saw her get the shot, and she was posting about, please get the shot, and I almost threw up in my mouth. So
I feel sorry for anyone who got it. I feel sorry for anyone who got it, and I think they feel sorry for themselves too. Everyone I know who got it, they're bummed.
Because you don't know what's gonna happen, man. My dad and them got it, and I told him, I said, Dad, don't get no more of them vaccines. Now he get it, and like, I ain't getting no boosters. But it's like, we don't know what's gonna happen. There's somebody that came out and made a wild statement and said everybody in the next 5 years is gonna die who got the vaccine. Now, I find that hard to believe, because you talk about half of America be dead in 5 years, and that is just impossible. I just don't think that's even.
Hey, but if I would have told you that the president of the United States was going to nominate a Supreme Court justice based on her genitalia and her skin color 10 years ago, you would have fucking bitch slapped me.
Oh yeah, I would have. You'd have been a real racist. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And yet we just saw it get done. We saw it's nuts.
Hold on, God dog it. All right, did that fix?
Hey, what do you? Can I ask you a private question?
Yeah, sure.
What are you doing in 11 minutes? Am I going to lose you?
Hold on, let me look. I think I'm good into a little bit because I got something else.
Okay, when you have to go, just tell me, because I'll never let go of you. But my producer's like, "Hey, dude, you got 11 minutes. Hurry the fuck up."
Oh yeah, no, I'm good to go. I have to be somewhere at 10 a.m. So I got about a half an hour more. I can do a half an hour to an hour more.
You're a good dude. You're good. My bladder will pop in an hour.
Yeah.
Whose show were you on that you had to go to the bathroom the worst? Is there one?
No, I don't know. Let me think about it.
Maybe your own show.
I my own show. I literally had to pee my whole show when I did a live stream with my friends for like 2 hours. I actually got up and went to the restroom halfway through the show.
Yeah, I do that. I have to do that.
One embarrassing moment, I was on Judge Janine Pirro's show, and my pants ripped. And it was embarrassing. Now I wasn't.
Hey, 500-pound back squat. That ass got to rip something.
Them thighs don't lie, man. Pop right through my little suit pants. Thank God I wasn't live on her show, because it ripped all the way down the back, man. My whole butt was hanging out. And so that was embarrassing. I guess I'll tell you a peace story that most people don't know. And if anybody on the police department can ever find this video, it'll be viral. I literally peed my pants while I was on duty one time, and it was embarrassing. So I'm gonna tell you how it happened. I had to pee really bad. I was working out heavy at the time, and I was drinking a lot of water. So, of course, when you drink a lot of water, your bladder is
like, were you carrying the gallon around? You were doing that?
Carrying the gallon around in my car. I would would just chug it right in between calls. And because I was drinking, I was doing protein, and I was just like, man, I want to stay hydrated, get big. And so I had to pee like a racehorse, man. And I'm going back to the substation to go use the restroom. I'm literally like, I'm turning a blind eye to every crime I see because I got to go to bed. I get to an intersection in a missing child, a missing juvenile. I see her right on the corner.
Oh,
she's missing. And I'm like, there's no way. I can't just pass her up. She's a missing kid that's on our flyers. So I stop and I put her in the car and I'm calling for backup. I'm like, hey, is any unit available to, the 84 me to support me? I couldn't tell him right away. I got to go to the restroom, man. I'm texting the dispatcher on my computer like, I got to go to the bathroom. Please get somebody to help me.
Oh, you even said that to her?
Yeah, I mean, I typed it on the computer.
Yeah, right.
So everybody didn't hear it, but I'm like texting the dispatcher like, please get some units available. I need to go to the bathroom bad. I cannot hold this kid with me. And so, it's a long process, man. You got to call these people. You got to get the sergeant involved. I get to the station, man, and I'm running out of time, man. I'm literally doing the ants in the pants dance. And I get this little girl here, and we got to put her in a holding cell until we can get her told her in touch with her parents and stuff like that. Because she did commit crimes and she was also missing. So we put her in a holding cell, dude, and I couldn't even wait. I threw her in there, didn't even lock the door. I just barely shut the door. She could have ran out of there and escaped if she wanted to. I went to the restroom and I didn't make it. I literally peed my pants, and pee was going right through my pants. And I finally, whipped it out, and I'm peeing all over the floor because now I'm in a panic. I'm peeing all over the floor, all over the toilet. And this is all on camera, mind you, because the cells are all on camera. And I didn't go to a restroom. I went to the cell next to hers. So
is there a drain? Is there a drain? Is there a drain in those?
No, dude. I had to clean it up. Most of it was in my pants. And I'll tell you this story. The reason why, which saved me, is that for some reason I could not. I didn't like the texture of the patrol pants touching my legs. So I used to wear compression tights all the way down to my, like the long compression pants, all the way down to my ankles every day, even in 120-degree weather in Tucson. I used to wear them every day. I just couldn't stand the feel of that pants on my legs, which was very weird. But when I peed, it soaked into those pants first, so
yeah.
So people couldn't really see it, how bad it was from face value, because my outer pant didn't appear wet. And so, man, that was horrible. I was so embarrassed, man. Somebody ended up relieving her. I was actually wiping it up when somebody walked in, and I was wiping it up, and I'm like, man, somebody made a mess in here, and I'm wiping up the pee and dumping it in the toilet. Oh, does
anyone watch those cameras live? Is there like
no, they don't watch it live. If they need to, for whatever reason, investigatory purposes, they can go back and look at it because it's on a loop recording. And I just never told anybody, man. I was like, if somebody gets that camera, I might get in trouble too, but because I left her unattended. I literally threw her in there and I couldn't even lock the door. I had to go to the cell next to hers.
Have you ever been arrested?
Yeah, I got twice. I got arrested twice. Traditional arrest once, and then the arrest on paper the second time. So I'll tell you the two. When I was 8 years old, I got arrested, physically arrested. I was smoking marijuana with my cousins in a vacant house in Fort Worth. And we got
at 8 years old. That's
eight. That's when I stopped smoking weed at 8.
You stopped or started?
I stopped. I was smoking weed before that with my older cousins. We used to go to my cousin's house, and then they used to buy the weed because, like, my cousins didn't have enough money, right? They were kind of poor, and so when we would go hang out with them, my dad would give us money, so they didn't have to pay for us to eat. We could just buy our own food. But we used to give it to my cousin, and he used to go buy weed with it. And then we would just go to the park and stuff. We just smoke weed all day, And
how old were you the first time you hit a joint?
I was 7.
Wow.
And then I think
you knew how to inhale and everything. Like by the time you were 8, could you hit a joint like crazy?
Oh, we were smoking blunts. We weren't smoking joints. We were smoking blunts. The big Swisher roll papers. My older cousins roll it up.
Wow.
We were smoking with them, and we were dizzy, man. We were walking around like zombies. And, you know, of course we would clear up before we went home, you know what I'm saying? Cause my dad would probably choke us to death. But, you know, I got arrested, which was crazy because my dad had to come pick us up, and he was a mess, man. He was so angry. I thought he was gonna kill us. He actually said he was gonna kill us.
Eight's a little boy.
Dude, I tell you this, when I got arrested, you know, when you get arrested, you got to take everything out of your pockets and they put it in a bag as your property. Dude, I had toy cars, little toy Matchbox cars in my property. I had like 20 of them. Just imagine me being a 8-year-old with 20 little push cars in my pocket smoking blunts. That's the craziest thing. If I couldn't imagine my son is going to be 12 in August. I couldn't imagine him smoking weed. And I was 8 smoking weed with toy cars, pushing them and smoking weed. And so my property was a bag of toys. You know, it was crazy, man.
That is crazy. That was what a great scene.
Yeah, and it's funny. I explained a little bit in my book, but I didn't even go this far in my book, I don't think. So the second arrest was in 2010 before I became a police officer. Tucson police officer was a complete jerk to me. He ended up arresting me for expired registration in a foreign state, which is, in Arizona, if you have expired registration from an out-of-state plate and you expired in Arizona more than 30 days, they can arrest you. It's a misdemeanor offense. And normally they don't do that for people in college because you know, it's obvious that people are going to college. But they ended up arresting me, man. It was crazy on paper. So I didn't go to jail or nothing. They just wrote the arrest, and I promised to appear in court.
I got arrested for expired registration in Santa Barbara once. It's a trip when I hear people, and I have a lot of friends who do this, when I hear people say stuff that happened to them and they blame their skin color on it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hey, dude, like that's happened to me 1,000 times. Let me tell you, cops and men between the age of 16 and 25 don't mix. Yeah. Like it has nothing to do with your skin color or anything like that. I've been arrested 4 times. One time for my dog was off a leash and I got a ticket and I paid the ticket, but I didn't go to court. And when the cop pulled me over, he said, hey, you have a warrant out for your arrest. I showed him that I paid my dog leash ticket. He didn't give a fuck. I was arrested. I was in the middle of eating my lunch. Second time was my registration had expired on my car. I had the registration. I didn't have the sticker on. He didn't care. It was like 11 o'clock at night. And I got taken to jail. Third time, what was the third time? I was doing 65 and a 25 in Albany, California. That town doesn't get wider than that. He pulled me over and said, can I see your pilot's license? And the fourth time, I can't remember what happened. I was in front of my girlfriend's house. I think I was sleeping in my car or something, and I got arrested. What's crazy is I've been pulled over for drinking and driving, you know, back when I was in high school. I mean, fucked up 10 times. And the cops were always like, son, you got to get home.
Yeah. Wow.
I mean, but I mean, I've been pulled over. I've been stopped by the police 200 times between I was 16 and 25. No exaggeration.
Oh man, that's
I was always fucking around.
I've gotten pulled over in my entire life, maybe like 5 times.
That's it.
I haven't been pulled over. Last time I got pulled over was like 2016, 2017.
Yeah, I don't get pulled over anymore. I drive a minivan and I'm old.
Yeah. You go to speed limit.
Chill. Yeah.
But yeah, this whole myth that the color of your skin matters based on police interaction with you. It does now. It does now, Brandon. By and large, is bullcrap to me.
Well, all my friends who are cops, they don't pull over black dudes now. None of them.
Right.
None of them.
In that way, they avoid it now. But it's you know, when you're a cop, you realize that it's not about race at all. I've never thought about it. Nobody that I work with ever think about race. It's really your people's behavior. And people, they get 2 things conflated. They say, man, they pulled me over because I was black. Well, you live in a black community. They passed 400 black people to pull you over. So are they racist or not? You know, it's only black people here. So anybody that's going to get pulled over, anybody's going to get arrested, anybody's going to get shot is going to be black. Is 99% black people in this whole area. And then they act like, what do you think happened in Idaho and in Wyoming and in some of these places that are heavily white? You think they don't police? You think they don't pull people over? You think they don't do their job? They get arrested too. They go to jail too. They get harassed too. I mean, people are just living a false world of stupidity. I never once thought about race when I pull a person over. If people do a ride along, mark me, I'll give you $1,000 if I'm wrong. You do a ride along with a police officer in the daytime, And when y'all driving up behind cars, you tell me what race they are. Even in the daytime, it's impossible to see what race people are. You see the back of their head. A lot of these cars have tinted windows. You really can't see. It doesn't matter. You're looking at behaviors. You're like, okay, look at this car. This car has got 5 hubcaps on it and got a big dent in the back, and the registration is expired. Okay, let's address this issue. It doesn't matter who's driving the car. You know,
I did a ride along once. It was fucking crazy.
That's why I became a cop, was the ride along I did. I mean, I couldn't believe that cops did that. Like, I couldn't believe how heroic cops were and how brave. And I know it sounds very corny.
And how compassionate. I couldn't believe how fucking nice they were. People are assholes to cops.
Oh my God. Trust me. I mean, we deal with it all day, every day. People
belligerent motherfuckers. Belligerent.
And everybody lies to you. Everybody lies. I mean, they lie for no reason. We have people lying to us that ain't even a part of the car we're on. You're like, dude, you just walked up and lied to me for no reason. You're not even. You're not even.
Had to get in his lie quota for the day.
Yeah, you're not even associated with this crime right here. We're investigating this crime. You just walked up and told a lie to me. Get away from me. You know, what are you doing? But to see the balance of emotions, the balance of integrity, and all that police officers have is out of control, man. I mean, Officer Sean Payne, he's in my book. I did the ride along with him. He's a white guy.
Was that your FTO, by the way?
Nah, no? He wasn't my FTO. I ended up riding with him, and he inspired me to be a cop. And he ended up being a cop and a field trainer in another division. So I didn't live in his division, or he would have probably been my FTO.
Okay.
But he was amazing, man. That dude we went from changing a flat tire of an elderly lady. Literally, the next call was a suicidal call of a kid that was actively cutting his wrist. And we're driving 70 miles per hour down residential streets. I almost died a couple times getting to the call. And dude, my adrenaline was rushing so much before we got to the call.
Yeah.
And even after the call, dude, I was stunned. I was like a deer in the headlights, man. I couldn't believe what I just saw. I couldn't believe that we just almost died. And Sean it didn't faze him, man. And he was like, I do this every day. And I'm like, every day? What? Like, there's no, what? Like, I felt like I was a punk, like, as a man. I was like, dang, like, I guess I'm not as tough as I thought I was. I'm punking out right now, and this guy is unfazed,
right,
by doing this type of stuff every single day of putting it. When you riding with a cop, people have never rode with a cop before. When you ride with a cop and you see a man get into the patrol car with a bulletproof vest on and a gun, it makes it real to you. You're like, dang, this dude is facing life and death every day. This dude got a vest on. Right. This is a real thing. Like, this is not, like when I ride with an Uber, you're not riding an Uber. You're not riding with Amazon for the day.
Right.
This dude have a vest on and guns and bullets everywhere and rifles.
And a taser.
This legit.
Yep.
He can die any day, every day, any day of the week. Somebody can just run up on him and shoot him. Or I remember when I was a cop, I used to have to go to these crazy calls, man. It's no turning back. It's no punking out. You can't just go, oh man, I don't feel like dying today. I'm just going to drive over here.
Right.
No, at the worst scenario possible, you have to come running full throttle. The biggest fear for me was school shootings, because school shootings, you don't have any time to wait for a backup or anything. You have to go and eliminate the threat. And that going into these situations, that it's a high probability that you're going to be the first one to die. You could be, especially if it's multiple assailants. You have to take that chance. You have to go.
You're basically you get the call, there's something going on at school, and you just have to get out of your car and run in there.
Well, yeah.
Kind of blind. You're blind, basically.
Yeah, because you don't know where the guy's at. The information is not real time. You have somebody calling, they tell the dispatcher tells you over the radio. That's like 5 seconds gap. And that person that's talking, by the time they tell the dispatcher something, they may be dead already. You know what I'm saying? And you running through a school with a guy who probably waiting around the corner with an AR-15. And the thing is that once you get exposed to death, once you see people who have been shot to death before as a cop, your fear level of getting killed, it goes up, because you feel to yourself that I don't want to end up like this guy I saw the other day that was shot up. I
Well,
don't
it's
want to.
real now, right? All of a sudden, it's real too,
It's
right?
real. When you see
Yeah.
people taking their last breath, it's
Yep.
real. You really see life and death in real life. Most people don't see it. They see the stuff on the internet, they see movies, and they like, oh, what? When you actually see a man die in your arms, when you see that last breath being taken and you see him go from life to death, you see people shot up and you patching gunshot wounds on the side in the middle of the street. You know, people have no idea what it's like to be a police officer. I mean, I could have a whole show just about that and bring cops on and have them tell these crazy stories. I was only a cop for about 7 years. Some of my friends that were cop for 25 years, 30 years, they have seen everything. They have seen things you couldn't even imagine seeing. Beheaded people, all kind of stuff. They've seen it all, you know. And these cowards walking around trashing cops all day. And I just say, put a uniform on for one night shift in Chicago. Put a uniform on one night shift in Tucson, Arizona, on the South Side, and you wouldn't last 30 minutes. I had this one girl. She was a social justice warrior. When I used to go to work, I used to take my son to daycare.
This is when you were a cop?
Yeah, when I was a cop, and I used to take my son to daycare in full uniform because I had to get out of there and go right to work. You know, I had like 30 minutes to spare, and so it was a girl in there. She I know she kind of liked me. It was a black lady. She used to bring her kid, but you could tell she was a social justice warrior. So she liked me because I'm an attractive guy in a uniform, but she hate cops. So she had just was dumbfounded. She had made small talk with me, and I said, "Hey, come do a ride along with me. Come do a ride along with me so you can see what it's like." Because she had brought up like some shooting a scenario. They asked me a question. I said, "Come do a ride along." She wouldn't even get out the car on a traffic stop in the daytime. She wouldn't even get out the car. She was terrified.
Yeah, the traffic stops were the craziest things that I saw in the ride along. I could not fucking believe what people would do.
Oh, yeah.
Or say to the cops.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And some of these domestic violence calls too is, I mean, especially if you saw a cop fight somebody. You know, I had my ride-alongs were with me when I had to fight a couple of people and had to pull my gun out on people. And we had a high-risk stop where we had the SWAT team, not the SWAT team, but the K9 and all this stuff. And my ride-along was literally about to pee her pants, man. Because she was literally on a high-risk stop where dudes was hanging out with the rifle. They had the K9 dog and all of this stuff. And the guy was non-compliant. It almost led to a pursuit, you know. And I also had that same ride-along. She had a chance to see what it's like with people drinking and driving, the destruction that it caused. A kid hit a light pole at 80 miles per hour, and the light pole did not budge. And one girl lost her legs in the back seat. The guy in the front was fine. He was the drunk driver.
Of course,
the kid in the
fine.
passenger seat was completely messed up. I mean, he was in the trunk of the car with his seat. Him and his seat was in the trunk of the car, and he was all messed up. And the ride along had a chance to see it. You know, we took her, opened the sheet. She saw that stuff.
This is like, the lady from your kid's school?
No. She did a ride along in the daytime. Ain't nothing happened. She did a half a skip, and she was terrified to ever even get out the car.
Did that change your perception, by the way?
Yeah. Because what I did was, because I was doing the day shift, because they let me work the day shift with when I had my son with me for the summer, they let me work the day shift, which was nice of them. I normally work the night shift, but I would tell her, "What race is this person driving?" I can't. I did like 15 times. "What race is this person that's driving? What race is this person?" So now you can tell that we're not pulling people over because they're black. We have no idea what race these people are.
Right.
And that helped open up her perception, in my opinion. But if she had the experience of that other girl that rode with me, I mean, she wouldn't have made it, dude. She would have cried and broke down, and she would have asked me to take her home. You know, she wouldn't have been able to make it with all that. So anyway,
do you not swear because of your faith?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Tell me about, so you were raised a Christian?
Yes. Well, yeah, sort of, kind of. I was raised a Christian, but we weren't really practicing Christians. You know, when you grew up in Texas, faith and football is what matters in life. Everybody's a Christian.
And you were really good at football, right?
I mean, yeah, I was really good at football. In high school, I was the top player in the nation. I had scholarship to every university that you could think of. I was an All-American. I was a freak athlete. When I was in high school, I had a 44-inch vertical leap. I squatted.
Wow.
I forget. I think I squatted about 500 in high school as a senior. My max on the bench was like, let me go to college. My freshman year in college, before the year started, the summer my numbers were, I did the bench press 18 times, 225. I did the bench press 18 times. I squatted like 6 something my freshman year. I had a 43 inch, 43 inch vertical or something like that. Dude, I had the numbers of an NFL. I would have, if I would have went to the NFL combine before my freshman year started, the summer that I went to college, I would have broke a record in a broad jump. I jumped 11.7 on the broad jump. I would have been the #1 rated defensive back by numbers. Like, I outperformed every NFL prospect when I was a freshman coming out of high school. So I was a freak athlete, man, and my career sucked though, man. My attitude and a bunch of other things just led me to not having a prosperous career.
Was it your attitude or your coach's attitude?
It was a combination.
Because
they were jerks, complete a-holes. Like Coach Stoops was an a-hole. He was out of control. And I
tell me what you mean by that. I heard you say that on another podcast too, that you were really kind of blown back at how out of control collegiate coaches are.
Yeah, at least him, because when I was in high school, my coach was pretty strict, right? He was a white guy in an all-black school. We had 9 D1 players. We had 4 All-Americans on our one football team. And so Coach Bob Jones was very strict with us, man. He would cuss you out. He'll pop you, you know what I'm saying, with a paddle. He used to have a paddle out there. Wow, he'll pop you with the paddle. But he did it in love and compassion, and he loved us, and we knew it. When I went to college, Stoops would MF you. He would call you all kind of names, get in your face, yell at you. I mean, literally spit coming out of his mouth, just dragging you, man. And like, you didn't feel that connection with the college coaches like that. So it to me, it turned into violence for me. I wanted to fight him, and
so it was kind of familial in high school, like almost like an uncle or a father figure.
Yes,
and in college, it was, you think it was like more abuse, like you have to earn the respect to yell at the players like that, and he didn't earn it.
Yes, no way in the world he earned that. He didn't earn it. He was like that to his coaching staff too, man. He would cuss his coaching staff out. He was out of control, man. And I'm not gonna blame him, because a lot of other players were able to take it. They knew how to not take it personal. I wasn't like that, man. My dad wouldn't even talk crazy to me like that, and that man would just disrespect you. And growing up in the hood, in the mentality I had, it was like, hold on, man, like, you disrespecting me now. This is outside of football. You don't disrespect me like that. You could coach me and tell me what I'm doing wrong. You can raise your voice. But when you start talking crazy to me and getting in my face, like, you know what I'm saying? I want to fight you. I ain't even thinking about football no more. And so a little bit of that too was the problem. And I just never was the same. Like, I never was on my game in college. I played a little bit. I still was in the NFL draft because I was such a great athlete. I didn't perform well at my pro day. I didn't train well. I mean, it really screwed me, man. My agent told me that if I would have played one season, I would have been drafted in the first round. That's how great of an athlete I was.
You didn't even play one season in college? You went to the University of Arizona?
Went to the Arizona. I did not play a complete season on defense. I played special teams here and there. I wrote the bench on because I was in the doghouse, man. The coaches hated me. And Would you talk back? Oh yeah, I would blow up on them. That's why I would take my helmet off and throw it. I'll get in their face. And I was at the time, that's before I got saved. That's before I really became a Christian. I just had such a explosive attitude. It helped in football because I would knock people out coming across the middle, but outside of that, it wasn't really conducive for success. I was to them, I was uncoachable, because the way they coach was yelling and acting crazy with you, and for me, it was like, I don't respond well to that. So it really hurt my career, man. And no matter how great of an athlete I was, they put me on the bench, and I rode the bench, and they made sure I never played. And I graduated because my dad always said, I don't care if you play football now, you better graduate. Hold on a second. I keep hitting the buttons on this computer. I don't care how much you play or not, you better get your degree because it's free. And so when I graduated, I had got saved, and halfway through my football career, things still wasn't going well. But my last year,
you did get saved halfway through your What does that mean to get saved? The way I researched your story, the way I heard it is basically you thought you were going to be drafted by the Oakland Raiders. By the way, you're not related to Jack Tatum, are you?
It's kind of like a rumor family theory that Jack Tatum is our great uncle. You know, it's
Wow.
been said that he was. We never got a chance to meet him. And me and my brother both were All-American football players. When we went to reach out to him, and by the time families was able to finally connect, my Tatums was finally connect with his Tatum side. He had passed away. And so we just never followed up. But it's been said, and people have drawn that connection, and some people in the family think we were related.
I pulled up next to him one time on the freeway in traffic on the 580. He had long been retired. He was in a dope Cadillac. He had the windows down. I saw the license plate. And I pulled up.
What did it say? What was his license plate? It said Tatum?
It said Tatum. Maybe it said J Tatum, but it said Tatum. Yeah. But the way I understood the story is that you thought you were going to be drafted, and you weren't, and like literally till the day it happened, till the day of the draft, you thought you were going to be drafted. You had a party plan. You weren't drafted, and you went into a spiral. And there somewhere you hit rock bottom and found God. But you're saying that no.
No. My college career, I spiraled. My freshman year, when I was getting yelled at by the coaches, and I all this stuff, and I was blowing up on them, and I was late I was chasing women, late to workouts, I wasn't perfect. Then I started, and then my sophomore year came around, and I got hurt. I had a season-ending injury, the third game of the season. I was out for the whole season. And so that was like rock bottom for me. I wasn't playing. You got to think, man, I came into college as one of the top recruited players in the nation. I played with Deshaun Jackson. I don't know if you know football, you follow football a lot, but I played with all of the dudes you see in the NFL right now. Deshaun Jackson, Jonathan Stewart, I think he just retired. Adamakin Suh was on my team. You go down the list. All of these NFL players you see today, we all played together in high school on the U.S. Army All-American game. So it was devastating for me, man. And then I got to rock bottom, and I was like, you know what? I don't know what my purpose is in this life. Like, everything is falling apart. I lost some of my really close friends that I went to high school with all my freshman year. And in 2008,
when you say you lost them, you mean you went different ways on your path?
No, they died. They died. It was all three of them died my freshman year in high school. Like, as soon as we graduated, Lovey died, my friend Tadpole died, and then Jeff died. Ricky. Jeff died and Ricky died. I wasn't as close to Jeff, but they all died in car accidents separately.
Oh shit.
Which was crazy, man. And as a freshman, young dude, it was traumatizing. But anyway, that was in 2005. 2008. Now, I didn't go through college 5, 6, 7, and in 2008 is when I got saved, because all of this turmoil and all these things that are happening. I said, you know what? I need to figure out if God is real or not, because I'm at a point now where I remember growing up believing in God. You know what I'm saying? I remember, being a Christian and some of the values that my parents taught me. And now the rubber is hitting the road. I need to figure out, is God real or not? And, I started going to church, and I started going to church and just giving it a try. I went to a couple, and I thought they were ridiculous. And I said, I'm never going to these churches again. And then it's funny, man, when I was pursuing that, I had a couple dreams. Like, I had a dream that like Jesus had came to me. And it was like a weird thing. Have you ever been asleep but up at the same time? And you're like in that middle stage where you're like, I think I'm asleep, but I'm awake. And I like saw Jesus's face. And of course, I don't know what Jesus looked like, but this face appeared to me. And it's like my consciousness knew it was Jesus. And his face was red. And it just like appeared to me like this. And it just like weird stuff was happening to me. And so I kept going.
Where were you? Were you at home in bed in like your college dorm when that happened?
Yeah, no, I was in college. I was in my bed, but me and my friend had rented a house. So it was me and a couple of football players. We rented a house. And so I'm laying in the bed, and this happened to me, man. And I like felt when I saw the face like this, I just felt like some energy like go through me. It was weird. And I'm like, that's weird. I'm not even a religion. I mean, I wasn't like deep into spirituality. And I just said, well, you know what? Maybe this is a sign I need to keep going to church. And I kept going to church. And then I never forget.
Sorry to interrupt. Did you share that with anyone when that happened?
Yeah, I mean, I told my friend lived with me, and we were all Christians. So
okay.
So I shared it with them. I wrote it in my journal. I tell the story sometimes to people. I think I mentioned some of this in my book. I can't remember how much I spoke about it, but I mentioned it in my book to a certain degree. And then I went to church, Emmanuel Grace Apostolic Church, which is Pentecostal Apostolic, very holiness strict church. I went there, and the guy preached the gospel of Jesus Christ. Like, when I would go to church before, they always tell about good story, good feel-good messages, right? Oh, you know, God loves you and God is doing this. And then they read the Bible all the way to the end and they tell you all these different things that make you feel good. But none of them actually told a true story about Jesus, because I didn't even know about Jesus. Like, you know, I heard about Adam and Eve. I never read it in the Bible. I heard about Jesus. Oh, Jesus is our savior and all this stuff. But I never read nothing about what Jesus did in the Bible. I just hear these stories floating around. And then but the pastor at Emmanuel Grace actually was reading from the Bible, and he was talking about these stories of Jesus and some of the parables that Jesus was saying. And it just changed the way I thought of things. I'm like, this is a real thing. Like, there's something here. This is not religion. This is actually a relationship. And I started to connect more to the gospel and start to really see it as being real. And I remember one of the Wednesdays that I went to church, and I asked the pastor, I said, hey, I heard fornication was a sin, right? Having sex outside of marriage, because I heard it, but I never saw it in the Bible. He go, hey, son, here you go, right here. This is where it says, you know, fornication is done. I'm like, really? And I had this desire to do right. I want to be right. I want to do right. And then when I say I got saved, according to the Bible, getting saved is being born again. And it's a natural and spiritual experience. And so when I was going to that church, he preached the gospel. It was just a desire in my heart to go get prayed for at the front of the church. I mean, truth be told, I was really doing it for the girl that was with me, because she was crying and she was all emotional, and I was going to take her to the front so she can get prayed for. And then I end up getting prayed for. And it was just, God just touched me, man. It was weird, because I remember the guy, he was praying for me, and I got my hands up like this. And you got to think, man, I'm not into religion like that. I don't know the lingo in church. So
and you're a young man. You're like a 27,
yeah.
just
No,
monster.
I'm young. I'm 20. I was like 21 or something like that.
Okay.
22 maybe. 21, 22. And I got my hands up, and the guy's praying for me. And I just remember him saying, you know, let it go. Meaning, like, get out of your mind. Just relax. Receive what God is trying to do for you. And I remember relaxing a little bit, and I felt something. Like, I almost felt like some adrenaline almost. And then instantaneously, the guy's like, there it go. Just relax. Just relax. Let God deal with you. Let it go. You know, all that you holding, you're harboring, all the stress, is just let it go and let God deal with you in this moment. And he was just kind of praying for me. And I just relaxed. They let me down to the ground. And it's funny, I had a dream about that before it happened. And I said, I'm like Benny Hinn, you know, he swipe the jackets and everybody fall. I said, there ain't nowhere in the world I'll ever do that in my life. But they kind of guided me to the ground, and I just laid on the ground and I just prayed. And I was trying to connect with God. If he was there, I was trying to connect. And I felt like I was connecting with him. I felt like God was just dealing with me in a spiritual sense. I couldn't hear God. I couldn't see God. It was something on the inside of me was connecting with God, and I knew it was happening, right? And then I got baptized. And in the Bible, being baptized is
not that same day. You mean later?
Same day. No, same
day.
Same
day.
That minute. See, the true gospel is that you should be born again. You don't, in my opinion, you don't schedule baptisms and stuff. It's an instantaneous thing. When you're ready, you go and make it happen. So the pastor said, I command that you be baptized in the name of Jesus. And so I said, okay, I'll do it. And I went up to the thing. They had the water ready. I got baptized. The young lady with me got baptized. And then another thing, this is weirder than all the stuff that I've said. So I got baptized and I came out of the water. Were you
vibrating at all? Did you feel your body vibrating at all?
No, I don't think that's the feeling I had. I had this feeling of like, I'm home. Like this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Like, I've been living this crazy life. Like, it's almost like God is calling me to come back. Come back home. And I just felt secure. Like, I'm really experiencing God right now. And this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Like, all that stuff that I learned when I was a kid, this is the real experience. All that stuff was fluff, you know, like we weren't really living right. We weren't connecting. It was fluff. And so I get baptized. And then when I came out of the water, I never forget, I felt light. And you got to think I haven't read the Bible much. I felt light. And I was like, dang, I feel like another person. Like, I feel light. It's almost like I had all this baggage on me and I feel light. And I didn't know what that meant until I read the Bible later. And it's in the Bible that, you know, that you are forgiven of your sins. And so anyway, 2 days later, my church believed in speaking in tongues and receiving the gift of the Holy Spirit, which is a spiritual thing in the Bible. I remember 2 days later, Wednesday night, I go because I wanted to get the Holy Spirit and speak in tongues is what our church believed. And I went to this room. We were in this prayer room, and we were in there praying. All the elders of the church were in the room praying with me, and they were all speaking in tongues. And they were.
Is that scary?
Huh?
Is that scary?
It was weird at the time because I wasn't a churchy person. So I'm like, that's weird. I'm speaking in tongues. That's for like old people. But I said, you know, the Bible says it. He read it in the Bible, being born of the water and the Spirit. He read in the Bible at the day of Pentecost in Acts chapter 2 about them receiving the gift of the Holy Spirit, and they begin to speak in tongues. So when they read it to me, I said, if it's an experience that needs to be had, I want to have it.
Right.
So they're in there praying for me, man. And like 5 minutes go by, and ain't nothing was happening to me. You know, I'm just praying and, you know, praising God, and nothing was happening. And I remember Elder Dannyfield touched me and said, tell God what you want. Tell God what you want. And I remember saying, you know, I want to receive the gift of the Holy Spirit. And it could have been like a couple seconds later, something hit me, man. And I started speaking in tongues. Now, God is my witness, dude. It was the weirdest experience I have ever experienced in my life. Even to this day, I'm shocked that ever happened to me. Literally, I felt like I was breathing, but somebody else was talking out of my mouth. And it sounded like an African dude. Like an African man was just talking and talking and talking and talking out of my mouth.
And when you say African man, it wasn't English. You mean like some language that you
Yeah,
only heard on TV?
It was another language.
Okay.
And even the way my vocal cords were projecting, it was like a deeper voice of like an African man. And it was crazy to me. I mean, I perceived it as African. You know, now when I pray in tongues, which I still do, it sounds more Arabic. But anyway, at the time, it felt like an African man was talking out of my mouth, and I was just.
So you still praying? Does anyone ever hear you do that, or do you
No,
just do that in private?
Well, when I was going at the time after I got saved, and I would go to church, I would do it in church. Like everybody in our church would speak in tongues. But more recently, it's something that I just do privately. You know, most people don't really hear me. To be honest, I think people may think it's weird that don't understand.
I think it's totally weird. I totally don't understand.
Yeah,
it's because it's totally foreign to me.
Yeah, it's real though. It's a real thing. Like
you know, there's people like who clean their nasal passages like with like a string, and you're just like, wow. Or you know what I mean? Like people who eat crickets, you're like, wow. You know what I mean? Like it's just so. Like the other day, my friend killed a rabbit and brought it over, and we ate it. And I was like, I was trying to act all cool and shit, but like I wasn't cool. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I'm like.
No,
so yeah, it's the unknown is scary. The unknown is scary.
It is. But it makes you feel more comfortable when you read it in the Bible. Like if you read it in the Bible, you say, okay, I'm not.
And you're around other people who are also having the same experience.
Right. And you say, okay, it's not completely weird. Like maybe this is a real thing. Like people in the Bible are experiencing something similar. Everybody at my church has experienced something similar. I just experienced it uniquely for myself. There's something here that I can't explain it. I don't know what to say. I don't know how it happens. You know, there's a study that was done, and there was a YouTube video of a scientist. I say scientist, a person that studies the brain, had put these probes on the brain, monitoring the frontal lobe of the brain, and had these two people that came in that claimed to be Christians, and they claim to speak in tongues, right? And so these people are speaking in tongues while they're hooked up to this machine. And you know, I know now that people can pay for propaganda. You know, people can pay this person to lie. But this doctor who is not a Christian, and admitted that even after this experience, he ain't a Christian. He was monitoring these people speaking in tongues, and literally the frontal lobe of the brain was not firing at all while these people were speaking in tongues. And the guy said that's impossible, right? Because the frontal lobe of the brain has to fire in order for the brain to begin to speak and think and all that other stuff. And he said, even in monks who meditate, he still finds signs of firing in the frontal lobe of the brain. These people who were speaking in tongues, there was zero firing of the frontal lobe of the brain. And he said,
meaning that it's coming from somewhere else. They're not creating it.
This is what he said. He said, I am not making any statements about religion or anything. It appears that what they claim to be experiencing, they are experiencing. Because I cannot explain how a person can be talking and the frontal lobe of their brain is not firing. He said it's an impossibility. But I'm not saying that it's real. I'm not saying that the religion is real. It appears that what they're experiencing, that they're claiming they're experiencing, they're actually experiencing. And so it's a real thing, man. A lot of Christians will beat me up in the comment section, I know, because some Christians don't believe in it. But like, dude, I can only
why
attest.
do we have to use the word believe? Why can't it
What-
be, you know, like you don't believe this shit, you know this shit.
Yeah, but you got to think. You got to think
belief is there's so little that I believe.
right.
There's so little that I believe. I believe I don't believe I'm talking to you right now. I know I'm talking to you.
Right. I think belief is something that has
I
not
think
manifested.
they don't use the word right. I don't think most people talk right.
I agree with you. I think the concept of belief is of evidence of something that have not been seen yet or is not present. Right. So you say, I believe that I'm going to be successful. You know, I believe I'm
Right.
You may be broke as a joke right now.
Right.
But the concept and the way people use the word belief is that I believe because it's not here, but I have a faith and a belief that it's going to happen. But to your point, in order for it to happen, you have to know it's going to happen. Like the things that have manifested in my life, I knew it. Like I believed it and I knew it. I felt it. I'm going to be successful. I'm going to, make X amount of dollars. I'm going to live in this place. I believe it first. Then I began to know it. Then I began to feel it. And it's a concept of religious people miss this though. You know how they say, I forget the name of the thing. You know how you can think it into existence and that kind of concept.
To manifest something.
Yeah, manifest something through existence. It's like I forget what it's called. The Secret. Somebody wrote a book called The Secret.
Right.
And so Christians a lot of time miss this whole point. And that's why a lot of Christians don't experience it, because they think that it's secular to believe that you can manifest things that you believe in your mind will come true. Steve Harvey said something I thought was incredible. He attributed it to Albert Einstein, but he said that it is impossible to dream of the impossible per se. He said, you're not smart enough to think up the impossible. So everything that you think is actually possible, because you're not, your brain is not capable of imagining some impossibility in the world. It may be something far-fetched, but it's actually possible if you can actually think of it. And so that concept coupled with Christianity is how I exist, because the Bible talks about life and death is in the power of the tongue. You know, you have power the way, in the beginning with Adam. God gave Adam dominion over the earth to name the birds and whatever he wanted to do. Like human beings have dominion over the earth. God allows us to do what we're supposed to do here. He's given us the authority. That's why man can create such great things in automobiles and airplanes, and how man can go from broke to being a billionaire, because we have dominion over our thoughts and what exists on this earth. By and large, God has given us the power to do that. Now, Christian religion tells you that you have to sit around and pray, God, I want you to help me be a millionaire. God, I want you to help me pay my bills. That's religion. Relationship says you go out and pursue it, and I'll meet you at the office to pay your bills, per se. You don't sit around and think you're gonna sit in a circle and pray to God. I think you should pray, but you have to pursue as you pray. And I think Christians forget that. But secular people get it. Some Christians don't get it. And then that's why they clash. There's probably no real difference between you and I. Maybe the things that you believe, you don't attribute it to being God, but we probably believe some of the same principles. And I think that the religious side of it has really ruined people's relationship with God, because the perception of God is a man that's up here doing this. It's like the Bible don't say that. God is not a man. God is a spirit. And it's a spirit that nobody knows what it looked like, how it operates to a certain degree. It's omnipresent. It's not a man that's sitting up there with a beard where you pray to. You praying to a spirit that is that we don't understand. And the Bible is just a collection of stories of people who have been exposed to it. You know, I say collected of stories, historical writings of people who just been exposed to this energy that they all attribute to the one true God. And these people don't know each other. They never existed around each other. You know, they had different dispensations of time, different parts of the world, and they all have a similar story of attributing these experiences, this experiences that I experienced, to what they would consider to be, well, in other places they say Allah, but Yahweh in Christianity or in Judaism, the experience they call this energy, this spirit, this God as Yahweh. And so, you know,
I am.
I am the I am. And
I am.
it's
so fascinating to hear you talk about this. It's so refreshing because I've been exposed, and so many people I hear, and the way I was exposed is you would never say I believe. You would never say I believe. I would never say I believe in God. That would be a disgrace from what I was exposed to.
right.
I'll tell you a quick story. I was, and this is after I was exposed. I was filming a documentary, and I was filming a guy, and he was going to listen to a get rich quick guy in New York City, like where he talked for 3 hours and then he tries to sell you a box of DVDs for like $500 or $3,000, whatever. And so I'm sitting in the back and I'm waiting for the subject of my documentary, who's a professional arm wrestler, to finish this conference he's in, this get rich conference. And the guy says, and just so you know, if you see someone drive by in a Lamborghini and you resent him, God will make sure, I don't even know if he used the word God. Maybe he said the universe will make sure you never get that Lamborghini, because God always gives you what you want, and God would never want you to become someone you resent. And I thought, holy shit. Holy shit. That's like the truest thing I fucking ever heard. Conceptually, theoretically, not just about becoming wealthy, but just that premise that God gives you whatever you want. And so if you look down on someone who has money, God will never make you that person, because he doesn't want to make you something that you don't want to be.
Right. I think that's a lot of truth.
My whole mindset changed.
It's
and from that day on, my financial freedom skyrocketed. And do you know what I did as a practice, Brandon? Not to remind myself of that story, I told myself that no matter what I see on the ground, whether it be a penny, a dime, a nickel, a quarter, anything, I will humbly stop and pick it up. And I will tell myself I am a money magnet.
And see,
as a daily practice, to remind myself of that moment that God spoke to me through that man. But I would never tell anyone I believe in God. I have an aversion to it. Belief is where bad things exist. I think where weakness exists.
Right. I think that you have a point there. And I think it's kind of the etymology, you know, like it's the way that a person decides to use words. And in the English language, words are so watered down. Like love, you say, I love my job and I love my wife.
Right.
The one word describes all these different loves that are not equal. They're not even the same type of love. Like you love playing video games versus you love God, you know, like, so the English language is very limited on its exposure to articulating what people are actually thinking. Because I would argue that a lot of people experience God on a day-to-day basis. What happens is religion makes them shy away from calling it something. You know what I'm saying? They don't want to be that God. They don't want the God of this religion, but they know they experience something from something that they cannot explain.
Right.
They have an energy or knowledge, or something speaks to them. It's like, that's God. God don't have to talk to you through Christianity. You know what I'm saying? And
is that okay for you to say that? And I'm saying okay, like, you know.
Yeah, let me clarify this, because people get weird.
Okay.
I believe that Christianity is the way in which God deals with our people. But you don't have to be sitting in a church. You don't have to have a Bible open for God to communicate with you. And I believe once God begins to communicate with you, God will lead you to the gospel of Christ, in my opinion. But you don't have to be religious for you to have a relationship, because there's so many people that connect with God and they get turned off by religion, and therefore they begin to say, I hate God. But in reality, they are actually experiencing God. They love God. They just get turned off by these people who make God in their own image. Because in the Bible, it says God made us in his image. Religion today makes God in our image. What do we want God to do? God is this, and God hates you and hate you and want this. And it's like, that's not even what the Bible says. Now, you will be judged by God, but God is trying to reconcile you while you're alive and do something in your life that gives purpose to you. And, you know, a lot of things that happen to you in life is God answering your prayers and also giving you authority to your own thoughts. If you believe I ain't never gonna be nothing, God will allow you to never be nothing. If you say I'm gonna be successful, I'm gonna make it out of this rut, I'm gonna be the best I can be, God will allow you to become the best you can be. Now, let me say this. A lot of these people are experiencing God, but they don't even practice religion. How is that possible? It's because God is not bound by a person's church building, you know. And if somebody believes that, they must be nutty. It's like God can reach people in Africa just as well as the United States of America, and they can reach people in Europe, and they can reach people in, you know, what's it? I can't even think of the name of the place now. Dubai, because I like Dubai. They can reach people in Dubai, and we may not even speak the same language.
Right.
You think God only speak English? Like,
Right.
come on, man. Like, you think God only speak to people who hear the gospel from this church? It's like, no, God speaks to people, but these people who hear from God need to try to build a better relationship with God so God can direct them what they need to do. And I believe that if you are hearing from God and you are humbling yourself and saying, okay, God, it's not about what I want to do. It's not about what I want to believe. It's about what's true. Lead me to truth. Lead me to where I want to be. Is Christianity right? Is Jesus who he said he is? Lead me to the truth. And I personally believe that people will be led to the gospel of Jesus Christ, not the religion part, but they will be led to understanding who Jesus really was. Jesus was an actual person. I mean, obviously people manipulate who he was when he did this or whatever, but by and large, Jesus was a real person. And I think the message of Jesus Christ is very necessary for people to understand in order for them to have a better, deeper, more authentic relationship with God, in my opinion. I mean, that's how I feel. So,
have you been to Africa?
No, I've never been to Africa. I'm afraid to. Not because of Africa, it's because of flying over the water like that. Like, you know what I'm saying? I'm terrified of flying over water like that. I mean, I'm like, if something happened, we're dead. We can't just land at a local airport. We're dead, you know.
Have you been to India?
I have never been out the United States of America.
Wow.
Other than going to the Grand Bahama.
Okay. So no China, no India, no Africa.
I've never been anywhere. I've never been out of the country. I've been almost to every state in the union, but I've never been out of the country other than the Grand Bahamas.
I used to make a documentary film, so I shot films in 100 different countries and
Wow.
really, really fucked up places too. I've seen some, and I've been on all 7 continents. I've been to all the states except for Alaska, and I've seen some really fucking gnarly shit.
Really?
Yeah, because primarily the documentaries I made were short films on malnourished children. And then I spent a bunch of time in Africa and a bunch of time in India. But basically, this is not real. There's a different societal experiment going on in these other places. Like China's nothing like here, and so until you go there, all you can do is like bring what we know to there, or the same with India, or the same. But Africa's the biggest trip, man.
Really, you know, because
Africa's such a trip.
This is one thing that I always think, because I've never been out of the country.
Mm-hmm.
I think that my perception of religion will be more expansive when I experience different stuff. Because you got to think, I'm in Christian land, right? Everything is Christianity. We can freely worship God, and I don't know people that don't worship God. You either atheist or you are some form of a God worshiper, whether it's Judaism, you know, Mormonism, whatever. And so going to another country where people don't even observe God and they actually live in a functional life, and they have a whole villages and towns and states or whatever they call it, and they don't even believe in God. Seeing people like that will be very interesting to me. I don't think it'll waver my experiences, because I think God is real. And I
Right,
think that,
right.
I think you can live without acknowledging God. I don't think it's the right way to do it, but I think you can exist.
Right.
It's not like you just vanish in the dust because you don't observe God.
Well, I like what you said, acknowledge God. Oh, could you say, would you accept, sorry, it's not a perfect word. Someone who acknowledges the unknown.
Yeah. I mean, I accept people who don't believe in God. I mean, it's just your opinion.
But you know what I mean? As a premise to, as being equal to someone who believes in God. That's not the right way to say it either. But when you said, hey, I don't think it's the right way to live to not recognize God. But what about if you recognize the unknown?
No, I think that, well, let me say it like this.
Mhm.
I think that if a person is willing to recognize, like there was a saying that says, a man that knows something knows he knows nothing at all.
Mhm.
Any rational person understands that they don't understand everything.
Mhm.
So I don't think it's very far-fetched for a person to say, I don't really know what this is. And I'm acknowledging that there's something there, but I
Mhm.
can't put my finger on it. I 100% understand why some people aren't Christians. 100%. I understand why people aren't Muslims. I understand why people aren't involved in any of these religions. I 100% understand. My experiences lead me in a certain direction, but I understand, like, if I hadn't had the experiences that I had, I don't think I would be a Christian. I don't think I'd be any of these things, because of the level of hypocrisy that you see from religious establishment will draw you away. And I have never had these certain experiences that people have had where they've been a Christian, a believer their whole life, and then something traumatic happened, like they lose their whole family in a weekend.
Right.
Somebody lose their children, and you're like, God, wait a minute.
Some Job shit.
This was an innocent kid in this low life who lived life destroying everything, killed an innocent kid that was just 8 years old getting his life started. How could you let that happen? I can see how people may feel some way about that. So I'm not delusional. I'm not saying that's the right way to feel, but I can understand why a person would feel that way. I can understand why, if you live in a third world country, why you struggle to believe in God. You know what I'm saying? But a lot of these people in third world countries actually are closer to God than people that live in America. But I can understand. I mean, I'm open-minded. I'm not foolish. I've read the Bible.
Were you open-minded before you were exposed
to Christianity?
Yeah.
I was
this experience before you, not even Christianity, before you were exposed to God.
Yes.
Were you open-minded?
Yes, I was, because I wasn't sure. I was like, me and my friend, I remember we were sitting outside in our car, and I used to have a car with the top down, and me and my homeboys were sitting out front of his yard, and we were just looking up at the sky, man, being like, what's real and what's not real, man? What is this? All these stars and galaxies and like, where are we?
What the fuck is going on?
I can't explain any of this stuff. What is actually happening here? Are we fooled? Is Christianity real? Is God real? Like, I was going through all of that when I was younger, and I feel like I got more of a peace when I did go to church and hear the gospel of Jesus Christ. I feel like I got more of a peace, but also because I consistently pursue God in truth, that I became more rational about my faith. Like, I do understand, and people are going to get mad at me for saying this, but it's true. I do understand that, like, even the Bible has issues in it. And if any Christian don't acknowledge that, you just being disingenuous. When you go look and research the translation of the King James version of the Bible and in the NIV version of the Bible, you go and do research on manuscripts and how they were discovered, what time period they were discovered, what condition they were in when they were discovered, how they're reproduced, and then you find people manipulating scripture. You start to really see, like, okay, I get it. It's more about relationship than religion. The Bible will lead you to success. But if you are not willing to acknowledge that people are manipulating religion, then you're not going to go as far. You're not going to go as far with God as you can. If you are sitting down and you say, everything in the English Bible that I read is 100% accurate, you will be making a huge mistake. Let me tell you why, because I know I'm gonna get beat up over this. If you read the King James version of the Bible and before the discovery of the Dead Sea Scrolls, which means the older manuscripts, the oldest manuscripts we have record of. If you look at First John 5 verse 7 in the King James version of the English Bible, you will see in more modern transcripts or manuscripts, or not say manuscripts, the newer versions of the Bible that have been written from older manuscripts, they have completely removed that scripture from the Bible. There is at least 20 or 30 when I did research from the King James version. Once they got the Dead Sea Scrolls and they compared manuscripts, that they realized that a lot of these could be potentially accidentally added to the manuscripts in the English King James version of the Bible. Some people believe it was malicious. Some
added or removed.
That it was added. Like some of these things were added because the way they used to translate the Bible is you used to have to write it. You didn't print it. You know what I'm saying? You have to write it. And they would write notes and they would write things in columns. And they believed that over time, some of the column notes got into the Bible. And some people interjected and filled in the gaps of things that they thought the Bible should have said because the manuscript wasn't clear. And so they've been able to clear it up in modern translations like the ESV and some of the newer Bible versions. They've been able to clear some of this stuff up. But you know, some diehard Christians are going to say, no, the Bible is, it's like, nah, man, you can get what you need out of it, but you just have to understand that there were mistakes in translation. And there was also things like, let me say this and I'm gonna shut up. Like if you read the Bible, if you read the Bible,
too late, we're in the deep end.
If you read the Bible, you'll see some words that are in italics, that are italicized in the King James version of the Bible. And people probably don't know what that means. That means that word is not in the original manuscript. That means that they had to put certain words to make the language read it well in English, because reading Hebrew or reading Greek, it doesn't read like English. It's not complete sentences. And so people that were translating had to write this in a way in which you can read it in English and make a proper sentence. So there's words added in that version as well. And anyway, so
I'd like to say something about that. When I was a younger version of myself, and someone would say Donald Trump's racist because he said that Barack Obama wasn't born in this country or that he's Muslim, I believed that was racist because they told me it was racist. Right. And then finally, and I'm so embarrassed to say this, finally there was this talk about him being racist towards Mexicans, and there were a bunch of people at my house and they were talking about how racist he was. So I went and pulled up while people were in my kitchen talking about what a racist piece of shit he is, I went to my computer and I pulled up the transcripts of where he said Mexicans racist, and he didn't say anything of the sort. Yeah. He basically said that Mexico was sending over some bad people, or only their bad people. And then I realized, oh shit, and this is tying to what you said about the Bible. It's not racist at all to say, if I just realized, holy shit, everything that everyone says is racist isn't racist. If I say that all Chinese people look alike, that's not racist. If I say that all black people look alike, that's not racist. If I say that all Armenian people look alike, that's not racist. That's just saying that I have the inability to perceive the difference because I haven't been exposed to the nuances of that particular look. It's just like if I said that every time the moon's full, it looked the same to me, and an astronomer would be like, "Are you fucking kidding me? It's 5 degrees tilted to the right every time it's full. It's different." And they would think, "What am I racist?" And I just realized, holy shit. And so you think the Bible's probably the same way. There's people who read it, who are jumping to conclusions, who are making these leaps that aren't true, that aren't factual. Yeah. It's not factual at all to say it's not racist at all to say that Japanese people are fantastic at math. We know that 10-1 they outnumber all other ethnicities as having PhDs in mathematics. Does it have to do with the fact that they're Japanese? No. Does it have to do with their Japanese culture? Most likely.
Well, it
has nothing to do with their eyes or their skin or any of that shit.
Right. And our Christians,
sorry, I circled it back, but
our Christians aren't the same either. Like there's like 40,000 different denominations. Like, right. I mean, and I know, I just know that people will get mad at me in the comment section, possibly because they do it on my channel. They get mad at me. Brandon, you don't believe
not on this channel. Everyone's loving and peaceful and accepting on my channel.
They're
Perfect.
here.
Yes, this is
Good.
where all
I'm glad.
perfect humans
Glad to
land.
be here. But yeah, you know, they
You're home.
you know, people, it's very weird because there's a lot of different variations of Christianity, you know, to a certain degree. You got Catholic.
Yes.
Catholic is very different than Baptist. Baptist is very different than Apostolic. Unitarians are very different than Trinitarians. You know, it's like a whole bunch of different stuff here. It's not just one way to look at it, or one way that people actually look at it. When you look at people, like I often look at people who are, I often listen to people who disagree with me, right? There's a guy that's out there that used to be a Christian and he claimed that the Bible is fake. And or not fake, but he just brings up all these things in it. So I listen to him. Some of the stuff that he say is actually not true, but there are things that he say that is true. I listen to it's a guy named Ahmad Deedat. He's a Muslim apologist. He's probably the #1 Muslim apologist in the world. And I watch him debate Christians. And to be honest,
What's a Muslim apologist? What does that mean?
Oh, that means a person that defends the faith.
Okay.
So he like goes around and does debates against Christians about the Muslim faith. So sometimes when he debate Muslims, when he debate Christians, I like to listen to it because I want to know what are the arguments against what I believe.
Right.
And there are times where he just destroys these Christians, and you're like, how is the Muslim man know the Bible better than the Christians who's debating him? And it gets you to think, because there's some truths, like just for instance, he talks about translation of the English language, the English Bible in Greek, and he talks about in the Bible how it's consistent that the word God, a certain word for God, I think it's like hotheos versus theos. When you say hotheos, and I could be getting this wrong, I'm really rusty on this. I used to be an apologist myself back in the day to a certain degree, not professional, but I used to do this all the time. But like hotheos and kantheos, like hotheos means the God, and like kantheos or theos means a God. Generic words. In the English language, when there's hotheos or hotheos, it's capital G. When there's kantheos or theos, it's lowercase g. It is consistent throughout the entire New Testament of the Bible, almost 100%, except in 2 places in the Bible. And one is in John 1:1, and then the other one is in the articulation that Satan is the God of this world. And the English translators translate the God of this world to lowercase g. And in John 1:1, when it says in the beginning was the word was with God, and the word was God, they translated the lowercase g. It should technically be lowercase g. They translate to a capital G. And the Muslim brought it up, and it's, now I don't believe what the Muslim said, but it was very interesting that that was the only 2 places in the Bible where it's inconsistent. The Greek language does not have capital letters. So the English, when translation, they have to determine whether something is a proper noun or not, or if it should have a capital letter or not. And they allowed all of the hotheos and kantheos to dictate it, except in 2 places. And so that was one of the things that he said that I said, wow, that's pretty interesting. Now I have to question, why would they do that? How is this grammatically consistent and things like that? So when you look at the other side, you gain a lot more knowledge about your own arguments. Like,
right.
When you're in the echo chamber, everybody's telling you X, but then you go and listen to somebody else and you say, okay, like, I think that, to be honest, I think that Trump won the election. But I also think a lot of people didn't vote for Trump that voted for Trump the first time. I don't think most people did. I think a lot of people did. And I did not know that until I went to my cigar lounge and I hung around people who actually did not vote for him the second time. And a lot of those people,
you know people who voted for him the first time but then didn't vote for him the second time. I thought it would have been totally the opposite way. I thought everyone would have voted for him the second time but not the first time.
Yeah, well, you got to, if you look at the numbers, he got 12 million, he got like 11 million more votes than he did in 2016. So a lot more people voted for him in 2020 than they did in 2016. So the trend is more so that more people voted for him technically in 2020. However, older men, 60s, almost every man that I've met in their 60s that aren't like hyper conservative, you know what I'm saying? They did not vote for him the second time. Every single time
they voted for Biden, huh?
Every single time I run into a man that's at
Unfucking
least in his late 50s, early 60s and up, they all say the same thing. Oh no, I didn't vote for him the second time. His leadership. I was tired of the way he was tweeting, and so I'm not saying that's a that every man is like that. I'm saying I had gotten exposed to it because in my mind, I'm like, there is nobody that didn't vote for him the second time.
Right.
You know, but there's a lot of people, man, and I don't know the number, but I hear liberals talking about it, and then I got exposed to it in real life where I'm running to all these men that secretly tell me like, no, I didn't vote for him the second time, man. I was tired of his shenanigans. I was tired of his outburst. I was tired of his failed leadership, the way he handled COVID, and all of these guys voted for him in 2016, and they're Republicans, and so it made me think like, maybe I'm not getting exposed to the other side enough to know the pulse, because that's how they lost the election. Liberals are in this circle and they don't realize the rest of the world in America and the right and conservatives are over here thinking about this. And so they just in their bubble. And then when the election came, oh my God, I can't believe they voted for Trump. Well, you weren't listening to this other side. And, you know, I think some of that happened in 2022 because there may have been concerns that people had that were legitimate that were missed. And that's why some of these people didn't vote for Trump. And I think that even with the cheating, Trump would have still won if maybe some of these people would have not turned on Trump, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like all it took in Arizona is like 10,000 people, 10,000 vote difference, and which millions of people that live here. Only 10,000, he lost by like 10,000 votes. There could have been like 10,000 people in addition to the cheating. Right. There could have been 10,000 people that were turned off, and that swung it. So, you know, anyway.
Damn.
But you made a good point, and I hope people realize this, is that you live good until you get exposed to other things. When you're poor and you live in the hood, you're not exposed to money. You don't know how to make money. You don't understand money. Like Malcolm X, when he went to Mecca, that's why they killed him, because when he went to Mecca and actually experienced the motherland, instead of the rhetoric that the brother Islam and stuff was teaching him, he changed.
Yeah.
He realized, oh shoot, I've been living kind of a lie this whole time. This is not what Mecca is. This is not what Muhammad is about. And boom.
You know what? I there was a time in my life where I only wore Malcolm X shirts, like for a year. I'm not even fucking with you. Like when I was 16, I got kicked out of my mom's house, and my dad had an apartment complex in probably one of the worst cities, right on the Oakland Berkeley border you could imagine. And I was 16 years old. I moved into an apartment there. I was the only white dude. There's a Chinese dude who slang heroin and ran the whores, and then everyone else was black. It was a fucking crazy awakening for me. And I just read everything I could on the Black Panthers, but I was a Malcolm X freak. Yeah. And when he went to jail, he took a dictionary and he copied down every fucking word in the dictionary. He rewrote a dictionary.
God dang.
And that stuck with me. And now as a 50-year-old man, I know why he's a fucking genius, because it's all just sorcery here. And what do I mean by that? I don't mean to be blasphemous, but it's all just words. Whoever controls the words and the narrative, it's all a Bugs Bunny cartoon. Just like in the Bugs Bunny cartoon, when he's like says those words and turns the guy into a fucking frog. That shit is fucking going on here. Yep. You can just fucking point at someone, say some shit to him, and turn him into a fucking, you know.
Yep.
We're at 2 hours. There's some. I want to talk about your new radio show real quick before I lose you.
Okay, perfect.
Are you so what I hear from you is that you've just always been a man who's on a mission. There's times where you've fallen off your path, and by off your path, I don't mean like in any religious sense, just the ride got bumpy, like you went over into the shoulder, and now you're really been on your path now for a while, and there's been this hard consistent work of sort of a refinement of your message, a refinement of your character, and a broader audience at all simultaneously. Is it scary? You're about to be broadcast on 300 radio stations. I mean, you're a fucking YouTube legend. You have really this is an observation, not a compliment. You are really a staple in this scene, and now you're about to grow. Is any part of you like, oh, I don't need to do that, I'll just stay here and I'm making good money here and everything's fine, and like, do you feel the noises of excuses of why you shouldn't keep like grow? Why, like,
yeah, 1,000%.
Is it scary?
To a certain degree, and it's because of my past experiences that lead me to be more confident in moving forward today. One thing that I learned in success is that you never say no to a great opportunity, and don't allow fear to dictate the decisions that you make. Just go for it.
Don't allow fear to dictate the decisions you make.
Yeah, don't, because I'm telling you, I've lived in fear, and you know what I mean, things you miss out on because you're afraid of something that never happened. You know,
right.
You're afraid of the future, and it's like you
haven't been to Africa because you don't want to get on a plane.
Right, you're right about that. I'm gonna get over that. I promise. You got my word. But you know, it's true. And so when I was approached about the radio show, of course it's intimidating, and because let's keep it real, I'm not Larry Elder. You know, I think Larry Elder is brilliant. You know, Larry Elder went to school, and he probably made way better grades than I did. Larry Elder is a lot smarter than me, I think, as far as the wealth of knowledge, the continuation of knowledge that he has, that's way broader than mine. And I'm not a strong reader. I never was in school. I to this day, I joke with myself because I read people's names wrong and all that. However, I believe God would not have opened the opportunity for me unless he wanted me to take it. And what I have learned is that when you step into it, gotta make it all right.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to be afraid to read on camera. I'm telling you, man, I used to be so bad at reading, and it's a mind thing, and it may be like a dyslexia thing. I just can't see the words right, and I don't read well. And I remember growing up my whole life feeling like that. People used to bully me in school because I couldn't read that good. And God challenged me when I worked for the Decennial Census Bureau. I used to do the numerate. I was a numerator with the census, meaning you go door to door and you say, "Here's the Census Bureau. Here's the census forms." And
I like that voice you use.
That's how
you loved that job, I could tell.
Oh, but hey, I needed to work. I wasn't gonna make no excuses. So I did that, and I ended up getting promoted to a supervisor position because I was where I tucked my shirt in every day. I was professional. They promoted me to be a supervisor, but I had to read 8 hours a day, 4 days, verbatim training. Think, for a person that struggles with publicly reading, you telling me I have to read verbatim training for 8 hours a day, 4 days a week? And that's when God really blew my mind, because I said, I'm afraid, this is stupid, I'm going to embarrass myself, but I'm going to do it anyway. I'm not going to say no to opportunity. And what I do, I read that verbatim training, it was just fine. And now going into the radio show, it's like, I'm just going to be me.
Yes, I embrace the fuck ups. Yes, embrace the fuck ups. Yes,
embrace who you are.
Yes, embrace it.
I'm a perfect example of that.
Lean into your bad shit and make fun of yourself. Like own it.
It's you.
Producer, what the fuck is this word? Oh, cognitive dissonance. Dissonance. Oh, sorry, cognitive dissonance. I always stop my show to look up a word. What the fuck did that guy say?
What I say is, I had a public school education, so don't beat me up too much about it. But you know, I think that this is what thing I want to say to people, because I know a lot of people are probably going through something similar in their life. You are made unique. There's no other person like you ever, who's ever lived, ever will live. Your unique fingerprint is unique to you. Your DNA strand is unique to you. It will never be replicated. So with that being said, be okay with being you, knowing that there's a lot of people that like you and think like you. I'm not the best articulate person in the world, or whatever the case may be. There's so many more people that do things different than me. I just be me, and what? Millions of people like the way I am. And now that I'm gonna be on the radio, I don't have to be Larry Elder. I'm going to be Brandon Tatum. And there's a lot of people that like the way Brandon Tatum talk. I don't have to be the smartest guy in the room, or, you know, I'm not saying I'm not smart. I went to college. I got a master's degree, or at least I'm halfway through my master's degree. So I'm not a dummy, but you can just be yourself. Yeah. God made you the way you are. Now, you can.
One thing you better do, though, if you want to be a good person, you better work on your integrity. I'm not speaking to you, Brandon Tatum, but I'm just saying to all human beings, like the only reason why Brandon can be like this is because he has integrity. And by integrity, I mean honesty with himself and honesty with the people around him.
1000%. I tell my team that every Monday. One of our pillars of success is integrity. It's actually number 2 on our success. It's faith and then integrity. So yeah, I'll talk you to death, man. I really enjoyed the conversation. At first I didn't have as much time, but then after we started getting good at conversation, and I looked at my calendar and we got a couple things off of it,
My producer said, you got 1 hour with him, but I know you're going to fucking woo him. I go, I'm going to woo the fuck
Well,
out of him.
I like having regular conversations, man. God dang. We talk, you know, in this world of politics, man, having a real conversation with somebody and being able to talk about things differently and you know, it's refreshing than just to be Donald Trump did this. And then, you know,
Oh, yeah. Oh, one more thing. Sorry. Fuck, I got to ask one more thing. So you saw fucking Chandler? You were up in the front row when Chandler fucking put the boot to Ferguson's face?
Oh, yeah, dude.
Did you think he was dead? Were you scared?
Yeah.
I was scared at home.
I was a little worried. I was a little worried.
His legs were all crossed and shit.
I was a little worried, dude. I saw that in live HD. We were right there on the front row. We were 3 rows back on the floor. And I saw that thing hit him, man. The sound of that going, poof, and spit coming out his mouth. And he went straight down, man. He didn't slow down. He didn't catch himself. He went straight down. He laid there with his legs crossed. He wasn't even moving. I say, man, he had killed this guy. And
it looked like it. It looked like he
kind of distracted you from the guy being dead because he started hitting backflips and jumping on the cage. And you know, everybody's cheering for him because he's a beast, man. You know, that dude yoked, man. He's little, but dude, you can see all the striations of muscles in his back. And that's normally not, the fighters are normally not that ripped. That dude was ripped, man. And that was a good fight until he kicked him in the chin and it was over. The other guy was
there?
No, not there. Trump wasn't there.
Oh, okay. Because I thought I also heard you say you met the president there.
I met him at a UFC fight in Vegas when McGregor fought, I forget his name now.
So you get invited to the fights regularly?
Yeah.
God, you've made it.
No, I you know, certain people that I know that we have a mutual friendship and respect. It allows me to do certain things. So,
have you been to the White House?
I've been to the White House like 7 times.
Oh, fuck. Okay. 2 hours and 11 minutes. Brandon Tatum here. I promise you guys, we will give him a 3-month break and then beg him to come back on. He's given us so much of his fucking time.
Yeah, anytime. And I really appreciate you, man. I think this is a great conversation.
Yeah, we didn't get to talk about the book. We didn't get to talk much about the radio show, but we'll bug you again in 3 months. All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. We will